Chapter 391. Boom. The ground shook again. Dust and debris spread like a tide. Boom. Boom. The continuous explosions sounded as if a giant hammer was relentlessly beating on something. The noise made one's scalp tingle, and the body felt as if it had gone soft. In the distance, the expression on Great Grandmaster Shwetufu's face changed. This battle situation was something he had never anticipated. The young prince, Ji Haihui, was actually being suppressed to this extent, even pummeled fiercely on the ground. After all, Ji Haihui had unleashed his bloodline talent. Shwetufu's face was extremely ugly, and his eyes flickered with indecision. He hesitated whether to intervene or not. After all, if he intervened, what if the young prince could turn the tide? Shwetufu's body surged with energy, his beard and hair all bristled, and the powerful vitality of a great grandmaster roared, his heart fraught with indecision. As Shwetufu made a move, Wang Kuyu at the entrance of the divine palace shook his dust whisk and performed a sealing technique. The great grandmaster and the divine element true person were contending with each other in secret. However, the two were merely conducting their contest in the shadows, and the real outcome still depended on the battle between Xixi and the young prince. Neither of them used their divine sense to probe. They merely used their eyesight to observe the situation amidst the rolling dust. But ultimately, Shwetufu couldn't help himself. He snorted coldly, fiercely flicked his sleeve, but it had no lethality, only unleashing a gust of wind. Suddenly, the swirling dust was swept away, revealing the scene in the field. But when the scene was clearly visible, Shwetufu's eyes suddenly widened, his hairs stood on end, and a cold sweat involuntarily soaked his clothes. While the 6 black-armored warriors, at this moment, held their breath, and the next moment, they all drew their horse-slaying sabers with a clangorous sound. Blade light flashed, and a sharp murderous aura suddenly swept through the field with the blade light. Li Qingshan stared at the 6 warriors with wide eyes, clenching the ramhorn hammer, thunder rumbling to the left. Zhang Qingzheng's sleeves billowed, held behind his back, and the mighty waves of his divinity surged forth. Zhu Hongdou became even more aggressive and fiery, her red-tasseled spear quivering, the exploding light as if about to burst forth. In an instant, the atmosphere became as tense as a drawn bow. The elemental energies of the divine facade experts clashed together, just like waves slapping into each other, bursting into countless white crests. 100 zhang away. Liu Yao's eyes shimmered, his sleeve enveloping Li Che and Tang Ren, while the chief supervisor quietly pulled up his erhu, crossing over and landing lightly. Vice Director of Daokeng Imperial Observatory. Liu Yao. Shwetufu's eyes hardened, he grabbed the chopper at his waist, and said coldly. What? The Imperial Heavenly Observatory is an official force of the Grand Prospect Dynasty, and you want to help the divine sect and bully the young prince? Aren't you afraid of the prince settling accounts after autumn? Shwetufu said coldly, throwing out a heavy accusation as soon as he spoke. Liu Yao came from Dao City, just like Wang Kuyu. Both were divine primordial true persons and, in fact, Liu Yao was even more difficult to deal with than Wang Kuyu. Because Wang Kuyu was famously a good-natured man who didn't like to fight much. Moreover, his breakthrough had been brief, and he was a newly risen divine primordial true person. Shwetufu still had the confidence to pressure him. But Liu Yao was different. As the vice director of Daokeng Imperial Observatory and someone who had broken through the divine primordial stage more than a decade ago, his foundation was far superior to Wang Kuyu's. Only when Liu Yao appeared did Shwetufu feel tremendous pressure. Li Che landed on the large flat area in front of the divine palace, his face incredibly solemn. Looking at the situation in the arena, he let out a slight sigh of relief. Because the dust had settled. The scene was indeed horrifying. The purple dragon shadow had disappeared. Ji Haihui, who had previously been imperious, now had his clothes torn and riddled with cracks, as Xixi sat on his back, pinning him to the ground. Although the hidden divine armor protected his shape, allowing each of Xixi's punches, driven by the protective power of the divine armor, to be blocked. This invisible protective force was now covered in cracks, almost bursting from the hammering. Ji Haihui looked as miserable as if he had been chewing mud, in an utter state of disarray. His eyes were scattered, seemingly having lost their light. Seemingly aware of the surrounding gazes. Xixi reluctantly got up, so tough. Then, she smashed another punch onto the phantom of Ji Haihui's divine armor that automatically protected its master, causing the protective force to completely shatter, bursting like glass all over the place. Ji Haihui's head was further smashed deep into the rubble. The entire figure was tiny and motionless. XIXI quickly jumped up. This shouldn't require compensation, right? XIXI's large eyes spun around, looking at the young prince lying on the ground. Her chubby little hands then reached for the young prince's waist. Li Chai's mouth twitched. This posture, extremely familiar, like the first time he had searched a body. Master Niu Niu said, after defeating an opponent, you must take their Kunkan jade. It's the spoils of war. XIXI crouched, her little butt upturned, and even wiggled it, muttering. How dare you! Xuetufu thundered in anger, stepping down forcefully. His powerful martial Dao will surged, and he instantly appeared next to XIXI, who was about to swipe the Kunkan jade from Ji Haihui's waist. Towering over her, like a fierce tiger eyeing a chick. However, before XIXI could even start to feel smothered, she felt the world spinning around. When everything cleared up, she found herself already by Li Chai's side. Liu Yao had intervened, lightly waving his sleeve, and had brought XIXI to Li Chai's side. The great grandmaster of Qi and blood martial path yelling at a child, simply disgraceful. Liu Yao said coolly, his black hair gently cascading down. Chapter 392. Xuetufu's lone sleeve fluttered in the wind, but he did not seem to care about XIXI being taken away. His original intention was merely to scare XIXI away. After beating up the young prince, he still wanted to filch the Kunkan jade from him, which was naturally unacceptable. It was already a loss of face, but if the Kunkan jade were to be taken by a little girl, the young prince's reputation would be thoroughly trampled into the dirt. If word of this reached King Pinglu and Ji Moli, who was currently quelling the rebellion, Xuetufu would certainly bear the sin of negligence, peeling off layers. That girl defeated the young prince, and now she even wants to snatch the Kunkan jade, such humiliation. How could I sit by and watch the young prince suffer? Xuetufu said coldly. He also fearlessly met Liu Yao's gaze. With King Pinglu and Ji Moli standing behind him, he naturally had tremendous confidence. Xuetufu also knew why Qin Tianjian's Liu Yao chose to stand on the side of the divine sect. It was also because of the prince. The prince's rebellion in Jizhu had lasted too long, and the corpse god cult was still growing. The imperial court had suspicions about the prince too. But at this moment, he had to show his strength. Liu Yao, you, a mere vice-director of Dao City Imperial Observatory, dare to bully my young prince. If it were the vice-director from the Capital Divine Heaven Bureau, then it would be another story. Wait till this gets back to the prince's ears, and he will demand an explanation from you. Xuetufu picked up the young prince, who was pretending to have fainted on the ground. At this moment, he was glaring coldly at Liu Yao with murderous intent swirling around him. One Liu Yao, one Wang Kuyu. Even if this matter reaches the prince's ears, I, Liu Yao, fear nothing. Li Nuangzai is the daughter of a second-class guest official of the Imperial Observatory, and I, as the vice-supervisor, protect her life, which is only normal. Even if it escalates to the divine capital, I have justice on my side. Liu Yao, with his hair and beard flying, stood with his hands behind him. Besides, if you're defeated, you must admit defeat. Having your Kunkan jade taken from you simply means your skills were inferior. As the saying goes, practice more if you're unskilled. Liu Yao spoke without mincing words, not being the least bit courteous just because Xuetufu was a grandmaster under Ji Moli's command. After all, Xuetufu doesn't even rank in the top 5 among grandmasters under Ji Moli. Xuetufu's complexion turned extremely dark as 6 black armored warriors also drew out their horse-slaying sabers, exuding a formidable military presence in unison. But it was just a standoff. Because with a single wave from Nan Luo, a burst of energy erupted from the numerous peaks within the divine sect branch. There were void aspects, divine foundations. The cultivators within the sect were all fearless. Li Qingshan, even more impulsive and explosive, was ready to charge out. Yet, he was stopped by Wang Wu. Don't be rash and escalate the conflict, do you really intend to keep the other side here? Wang Wu said in his old voice, everyone is just putting on a show, to maintain face. With the temple god resonance imminent, no one wants to blow things up. Li Qingshan reluctantly put away his ramhorn hammer. Atop the peak, the deep snow whirled and danced. Xuetufu, holding the young prince in one arm, took a deep breath. Very well, very well. A fine divine child from Golden Light Prefecture. A splendid Jianyuan Jingguang branch. Xuetufu repeated very well 3 times, then turned around, holding the young prince, and heavily stomped down. The entire golden light peak seemed to tremble. Then, he catapulted himself away, carrying the young prince across a parabola toward Mansion City. The 6 black-armored warriors also retreated into the sky one after another. Xi, held in Li Chei's arms, suddenly couldn't help but struggle. Why run away? Remember to honor the bet. Xi will be waiting for you, you little servant. Xi shouted. Li Chei quickly flicked her head. Xi immediately clutched her head, looking aggrieved. Daddy, it hurts. Li Chei said irritably, what did Daddy teach you? Don't try to be a hero when you're outside. Keep a low profile, and if you ever meet an opponent you can't overcome, what will you do if you get beaten up? Xi's eyes brimmed with tears, her small mouth puckered, and her round cheeks puffed out. Daddy, Xi's hand hurts. Poor little Xi looked so pitiful. Your hand hurts? Let Daddy see. Upon hearing this, Li Chei's expression immediately changed. He grabbed Xi's plump arm that was as tender as a section of lotus root. After all, since the fire-tip spear within Xi had activated on its own, Li Chei was also worried it would affect Xi, although it most likely wouldn't. Divine weapons have a spirit, and since it has entered Xi's body and recognizes Xi as its master, even though Xi can't wield it actively, the divine weapon wouldn't harm its master. The mud pill between the brows faintly glowed. Divine skills. Star-plucking pupil. After a glance, Li Chei couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Because Xi's arm had completely changed. The toughness of the flesh and blood had greatly increased compared to before. The current resilience of the tendons, membranes, and muscles in the arm housing the divine weapon wasn't even weaker than his, the Furnace Grandmaster. This was the strength from within the divine weapon affecting Xi. Comparable to bone washing and marrow cleansing. This is simply. Li Chei was shook. 4 royal divine weapons had such an effect. No, it should be said, do mythical weapons truly have such an effect? This is an immense boon for the cultivation of the martial path. Li Chei's eyes twinkled as he seemed to vaguely understand something. No wonder in this world, the upper limit of the martial path continues to rise, even before the emergence of divine methods and the spread of the mysterious temple. It was extremely difficult to reach the Grandmaster level in the Qi and Blood martial path. And now, there have even been martial saints, and even beyond martial saints. Li Chei speculated that this might also be related to the subtle enhancement of the physique by these divine weapons. He wondered if the mythical weapon he had obtained, the equal to Heaven's Face, also had such a powerful physical effect. However, his equal to Heaven's Face was an incomplete mythical weapon. Perhaps he'd have to wait until he collected the complete mythical weapon to see. And after confirming that Xi was all right, Li Chei also let out a sigh of relief and felt at ease. This girl scared him. When Xi said she was in pain, Li Chei's heart had instinctively tightened. He even thought that Grandmaster Xuetufu had harmed her. The urge to kill almost burst forth from within him. However, even at this moment, the killing intent in Li Chei's heart had not subsided. Li Chei carefully observed again, not only the arm but also checked her entire body. Only when he was sure that the state of this girl Xi was better than ever, did he completely relax. Xi's fist was slightly red on the surface, probably because she had been too excited pounding it and caused it to redden. Besides, under the perception of Li Chei's star-plucking pupil, the purple flame serpent spear within Xi's arm, after beating up the dragon god Purple Pupil's young prince, became listlessly quiet. Li Chei even felt the opponent's emotions of regret and boredom. It seemed as if it disapproved of the dragon as a mere fake and didn't extract what it wanted. Unsatisfied. Li Chei. It felt like a rush of personality had just hit him in the face. However, Li Chei's star-plucking pupil in his brow lit up slightly. He saw from Xi's arm that the purple flame serpent spear's head emitted a wisp of purple qi, resembling a jiao long. Long and sinuous, seemingly with the scales of a python, the length of a crocodile, and the horns of a jiao. Add latest chapters at freeognovlo only. Continuously swirling like aromatic incense. Chapter 393. Li Chei's brow knew and felt a slight warmth. The star-plucking pupil flickered in and out of visibility, casting a gaze that could return to reality, and he saw the purple qi that was pleasantly spewing forth from the tip of the purple flame serpentine spear. That purple chi was not unfamiliar to Li Che. Back when XIXI was undergoing her initiation assessment at the sect, Zhongqing Zheng had used the divine sect's talent observing array to survey the talents of the spirit children, and he could see this kind of purple chi. According to what Li Qingshan said, this was an embodiment of the spirit children's divine talent, representing the potential and ultimate limit of each child's future cultivation path of divinity. The taller the column of purple chi, the higher the potential for the future. And if the purple chi exceeded 100 feet, it indicated that the child's divine talent surpassed that of a supreme spiritual child and could reach the level of a divine child. In a mansion city, which included the surrounding towns, there were roughly 10 or so supreme spiritual children. Looking at one state city, which usually contained about 3 or 4 mansion cities, that meant there could be several tens of supreme spiritual children. But typically only 1 or 2 divine children would emerge. A divine child in a mansion city could be deemed a once-in-a-generation talent. But Li Qingshan told Li Che that at the level of a divine child, talent could still be differentiated, and there were indeed high and low distinctions. It was the same as the differentiation among spirit children. That is to say, divine children could also be divided into supreme divine children and superior grade divine children. However, the divine sect Golden Light Branch's talent observing array, which was equipped to survey talent, could only detect divine children. Exceeding 100 feet marked a divine child, but the distinctions among divine children were difficult to ascertain. So, this is divine talent. Is this the divine talent belonging to young Prince Ji Haihui? The purple flame serpentine spear, this mythical weapon, actually drew out such a large strand of Ji Haihui's divine talent. After Li Che understood this point, his heart trembled instantly. The skin wasn't peeled, but these tendons were truly drawn out. Even though it wasn't actual tendons, having divine talent peeled off like this was also no small injury. As expected of a mythical weapon. Well done. Li Che couldn't suppress the smile curling at the corners of his lips. With the star-plucking pupil in the center of his brow flashing slightly, he watched as the dragon-like divine purple chi slowly merged into XIXI's body, being torn apart and devoured by the divine purple chi talent within her. Feeling the much strengthened divine purple chi talent in XIXI, his eyes couldn't help but sparkle brightly. I wonder what height XIXI's divine talent would reach if measured with a high-quality talent observing array. 100 feet is definitely exceeded, but 900 feet, that's also 100 feet. Could it exceed 1,000 feet, 10,000 feet? Li Che was slightly stunned. If a divine child's talent was even higher, would it reach the level of a purple chi connecting to the heavens? If it was really so, that would be truly terrifying. In this world, are there such divine children? Li Che could hardly imagine what kind of a freak a divine child with purple chi reaching to the heavens would be. Daddy, you're bad. XIXI hurts, why are you smiling so happily? XIXI widened her eyes, incredulously looking at Li Che whose lips bore a smile. Was this still XIXI's dear daddy? Could it be true that XIXI was, as daddy said, picked up from a garbage heap? Daddy doesn't love XIXI anymore. Li Che's mouth twitched, and he hurriedly tried to flatten the smile that he was gradually unable to suppress. This further hurt XIXI's young heart. Li Che smiled and rubbed XIXI's head. All right, it's just a superficial wound. XIXI is going to be a strong little girl who will become Emperor XIXI, what does this hurt count for? Ji Haihui had it much worse, right? He was beaten and even had his divine talent peeled. However, Li Che's mind was slightly stirred. Ji Haihui's dragon god eyes could stimulate the fire-tip spear. Could it be because the third crown prince had a long-standing grudge with the dragon clan? Thus, it inspired some kind of bond, stimulating this spear belonging to the third crown prince, which automatically triggered, helping XIXI suppress Ji Haihui, this evil dragon? Li Che felt the possibility was very high. So, to stimulate the mythical weapon, could I try to bring out some dragon blood and wave it in front of the fire-tip spear? Li Che couldn't help having a bold idea. If he stimulated the fire-tip spear several times, XIXI's physical body in the blood-moving realm might match that of his, the Furnace Grandmaster's dad. This kind of activity to establish a good foundation for his daughter. Naturally, Li Che would treat it seriously. I wonder if young Prince Ji Haihui's blood would work. Li Che, holding XIXI, couldn't help but start daydreaming. Meanwhile, up at Dapping, a clamor had also exploded. It was almost as if it would lift Golden Light Peak clean off its foundations. The son of King Pingluan, young Prince Ji Haihui, came with a great grandmaster to forcefully pay respects to the mountain, but in a one-on-one match, he was suppressed by XIXI. He perished before he even succeeded in his mission. The subordinates of the Golden Light sub-sect couldn't help but be uplifted. Because, such an event was truly exhilarating and boosted morale immensely. When a great grandmaster came to pay respects to the mountain, with the terrifying martial Dao will almost like a great sun scorching the heavens, making it suffocating to the point of despair. When all the disciples saw no one who could stand up, the hearts of the disciples of the Golden Light sub-sect were naturally filled with indescribable frustration and anger. As if endless dark clouds were rolling in, crushing towns, nearly pressing down on the city's sky with that oppressive darkness. But the more ferocious this oppressive darkness pressed down, the more exhilarating and refreshing it felt when it was torn apart and sliced open, revealing a light that illuminated the human world. An invigorating refreshment that seemed to burst from their pores. Even though it wasn't them, the disciples of the Golden Light sub-sect, who defeated young Prince Jimoli, they still felt immensely happy and exhilarated. XIXI. Chapter 394. Emperor XIXI. Emperor XIXI. Many spirit children gathered around had already praised XIXI to the skies. Because XIXI often behaved as if she would become Emperor XIXI in the future, all these children shouted Emperor XIXI directly. Anyway, if XIXI liked to hear it, they loved to shout it. Just pampering the favorite. These little carrot heads, each with their faces red and beaming, hopping and jumping about, their eyes visibly radiating fanaticism and admiration. Li Che even spotted admiration in the eyes of a few little boys. Pa! Where did these brats come from? So young, and not learning the good things, but learning to admire. Li Che glanced at several unfamiliar little boys, committing their faces to memory. Being a father, his vigilance towards little brats was always at the highest level. He needed to keep a close eye to see if these brats could potentially mount a ghostly steed in the future. Although Li Che was cautious, he still let XIXI down to play and show off with her pals. XIXI was being called so much that she was smiling from ear to ear, even forgetting about such a big issue as Daddy not loving her today. After all, if Daddy didn't love her today, he would tomorrow. XIXI, with hands on her hips and belly pushed out, became like the king of the kids amidst the cries of the spirit children shouting for Emperor XIXI, losing herself gradually. That young prince hasn't fulfilled the bet yet. When he becomes my servant, I'll bring him for you all to see. XIXI said, hands on hips. From a distance, little fatty stuffed another bun into his mouth, eyes full of speechlessness. This XIXI. She's done for. Jimoli's son beaten up like that. Can Jimoli endure it? Can Jihui, that dragon maiden's mother, endure it? Little fatty shook his head and sighed. Miss Yuni glanced at little fatty Zhou with her extremely attractive and lovely eyes, and said with a pout, so what? It can't be that even when Jihui bullies her to the extreme, she should still swallow her anger, right? XIXI dared to stand up, at least, she's a hero. She's so cool. Yuni sounded a bit angry, but her voice was still as sweet as a lark. Then, she turned and left, heading towards XIXI. The bun fell out of little fatty's mouth, and he was totally stunned. He was so frantic he almost cried. While running, he called out. Sister Yuni, I was wrong. Emperor XIXI is the most awesome, Emperor XIXI is the most invincible. Hai Chao Sheng, Gong Yuan Liang and Gong Yangshiu were about to head over to congratulate XIXI. Seeing this scene, they burst into laughter. Gong Yangshiu covered her mouth and laughed, Liang, doesn't he look like a dog? Lu Yao and Wang Kuyu, the two divine primordial true persons, had forcefully repelled Xuetufu, the great martial arts master. Nan Luo thanked Vice Supervisor Lu of the Imperial Heavenly Observatory. What thanks? Do we still need to speak about such things between us? Lu Yao glanced at Nan Luo, his expression somewhat complex, with even a hint of anger in his eyes. No, I'm not helping you, I'm helping Li Che. Don't try to ingratiate yourself with me. I don't know you. After speaking, Lu Yao turned and walked away brusquely. Li Che was momentarily dumbfounded. Did the sect master know Vice Supervisor Lu? But Nan Luo couldn't help laughing, so many years have passed, and you're still just as Tsundere. Lu Yao suddenly became indignant, who are you calling Tsundere? I'm disappointed. Out of that batch of divine children, you were the one who defeated me. But now? Look at yourself, what have you become? So many years have passed, yet you failed to break through to divine primordial, and you haven't even managed to condense your primordial spirit. How disappointing! Liu Yao glared at Nan Luo. Unable to contain himself, Nan Luo burst into hearty laughter, his laughter carrying a certain liberation. Liu Yao felt that the current Nan Luo had no hope of catching up with him. Hence, he was disappointed. However, considering they had been divine children of the same batch, competing at the Tongshen meeting in Dao City, Liu Yao stood up to assist Nan Luo this time and helped him out of a tight situation. Otherwise, as Xuedufu said, Liu Yao, as the vice supervisor of Dao Keng Imperial Observatory, had no need to meddle in this messy affair, standing against King of Quelling Chaos Ji Moli. Li Che observed these powerful characters with their intricate relationships and exchanges, feeling somewhat bewildered. Yet, he also understood that these people had all been young once. How this incident will turn out still remains to be seen. Perhaps it won't be clear until after the Temple God Resonance meeting, to know young Prince Ji Haihui's attitude. As for Xixi wanting Ji Haihui to be her servant, forget it, the other party won't acknowledge it. Probably they'll just play dead until the Temple God Resonance begins. Liu Yao spoke calmly. Nan Luo solemnly nodded, a harsh glint flashing in his eyes. Xixi has completely shattered young Prince Ji Haihui's face this time. To be honest, I never expected such a performance from her. Her display was indeed exceedingly excellent. Liu Yao's gaze fell on Xixi, who was surrounded by children in the distance, shining brightly. Nan Luo stroked his beard and smiled, well, of course. Who do you think her teacher is? But Liu Yao just sneered. So, I brought my disciple, and for this Temple God Resonance, consider it as the last competition between you and me, let's compete through our disciples. Nan Luo was taken aback and shook his head with a bitter smile. This guy, why doesn't he ever give up? Li Che listened to the two men's conversation and instantly thought of Tang Ren. Turning his head to look, his face immediately darkened. Tang Ren was also crowding around Xixi, shouting Emperor Xixi, his little face flushed, his eyes and expressions changing. Chapter 395. Li Che sounded the alarm. Xixi, that girl. Does she have to bag a yellow chick every time she shows off? Liu Yao was also silently watching the scene. Suddenly, he kind of wanted to take back what he had said to Nan Luo. The news of young Prince Ji Moli's frustrated homage at the mountain spread quickly throughout Golden Light Prefecture City. That homage was a grand affair. It was launched with pomp by a great Grand Master, agitating the entire city, but in the end, it concluded in a dramatic fashion. Young Prince Ji Moli was actually pinned to the ground and brutally beaten by a divine child recently taken in by Nan Luo. He was beaten to a swollen nose and a bruised face. If it were not for the presence of a great Grand Master, the young prince would not even have been able to descend from Golden Light Peak. It was a terrible sight. The remaining four major families of Golden Light Prefecture were silent. Their divine minister ancestors had not expected Ji Haihui to lose. Even among divine children, there are disparities. But this gap was supposed to be between Xixi and the young prince. One was a divine child from the small place of Feilei City, the other bore the renowned bloodline of the martial saint, an illustrious heir to the Prince of Pacifying Chaos. The two were not even on the same level. Golden Light Prefecture was rocked, word spread far and wide. However, various powers were clever, keeping the news under wraps, not overly publicizing the matter. City Lord's Mansion. Su Huili sealed the doors of the City Lord's Mansion, his face stern and unsightly. He had not gone to Golden Light Peak because his conflict with Nan Luo was well known, so Su Huili refrained from going. But Su Huili had never imagined that the young prince's homage would fail. He thought it would serve to dampen the zeal of the Golden Light sub-sect. That damn girl! How is it possible? Su Huili's eyes narrowed. Xuedufu, the one-armed great Grand Master, sat in the courtyard with a cold face, his qi and blood churning, killing intent boiling. Ever since he returned from Golden Light Peak, the young prince had locked himself in his room, not taking a single step outside. This caused some turmoil in Xuedufu's heart, worrying that the young prince might have developed some psychological shadow. How would the prince view him? Xuedufu's heart sank continuously, along with the oppressive atmosphere in the courtyard, which kept rising. Su Huili's expression changed, feeling a bit oppressed, the aura of a great Grand Master indeed terrifying. Let's wait until the Temple God Resonance is over. At this critical moment, if we harm that girl, the divine sect may have an excuse to stop the temple god resonance meeting, and then the purpose of the young prince's visit will be meaningless, Suhuili said in a deep voice. He was worried that the great Grand Master Xuetufu intended to take drastic measures to capture or even kill Li Nuangzai. That would ruin everything. Xuetufu gave him a glance and said coldly, catching that girl won't be easy, with two divine element true persons protecting her, is it that simple to seize her? Unless... Xuetufu stopped speaking midway. Suhuili's heart stirred, knowing the young prince surely had another card up his sleeve. But he did not ask further. Let's wait until the temple god resonance is over. Everything must ensure that the young prince can inherit the legacy during the temple god resonance, Suhuili spoke sternly. Xuetufu nodded, turned his head to look towards the tightly shut room. This matter. It was a blow to the young prince, but if he could overcome this threshold, the young prince's mentality would transform, possibly developing a resilient spirit, which is of utmost importance for future cultivation. A great Grand Master's desire to condense his martial Dao will is closely linked to his spirit. At this very moment, inside the room, young Prince Ji Haihui frantically grabbed his own hair, his purple eyes bizarrely flickering. His clothes were disheveled, hair a mess, face pale. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, he felt like his psyche was about to crumble. Because he discovered a large portion of his divinity's purple chi seemed to have been chopped away. His bloodline talent for divinity's purple chi had plummeted. How could this be? It was I who intended to siphon Li Nuangzai's divinity's purple chi. Why, how could this happen? Could it be that Li Nuangzai also possessed the power to siphon divinity's purple chi? Ji Haihui was crazed. The more he thought, the more confused he became. His eyes filled with anger, blood-red rage, unwillingness and humiliation accumulated. After all, just a 5-year-old child couldn't control his emotions of joy and anger. His tears streamed down, lips trembling, the pride he arrived with now gone. Li Nuangzai. A low roar came from the young prince. Like a child who had been spoiled and held high on a pedestal normally, now frenzied after having been severely beaten. However, he soon calmed down. He soothed his own emotions. That girl has bloodline talent too. Father said that divine children born around the mysterious temple are not to be underestimated. Now I have truly seen it. But I still have a chance. Ji Haihui suddenly looked up, his purple eyes filled with bloodlust and madness. The childishness on his face twisted into frenzy. Li Nuangzai. I so like you. The young prince's homage thus concluded and ended. Li Che took Xixi back to the small courtyard on Zhenglei Peak. The Grand Master homage resonated with the entire divine sect, and both Zhangya and Old Chen naturally sensed it, their hearts inevitably tensed. Seeing Xixi return unscathed, Zhangya finally breathed a sigh of relief. Xixi, quick! Let mother see if you are hurt, Zhangya hurriedly called out. Xixi trotted over with her little short legs. With a pout and small fists raised, she complained, Mother, look, Xixi almost got scraped, it hurt so much. How come the wound is gone? Chapter 396. Xixi ran halfway, looked at her own chubby and tender little fists, and suddenly felt somewhat embarrassed. Then she didn't care anymore, opened her mouth wide, and burrowed into Zhangya's arms. Mommy, Xixi is so scared, Xixi needs meat to feel comforted. I want braised pork, oil braised prawns, spicy sour ribs. Xixi rubbed her head in Zhangya's embrace, saying sadly yet happily. Zhangya, hearing how smoothly her little girl recited the dishes, finally felt completely relieved. Li Che described the situation to her with a smile. Zhangya then lovingly rubbed Xixi's head. Xixi put her hands on her hips, full of life. Mommy, you didn't see how majestic and amazing Emperor Xixi was today. That little loach couldn't stir up any waves in front of Emperor Xixi. Xixi puffed up her little belly, excited and proud. Zhangya smiled gently, then went to make some delicious food for Xixi. Night fell. After dinner, Li Che slipped into the study. The heaven and earth chessboard vibrated and expanded, enveloping the entire study. His face, gentle throughout the day, turned utterly somber. Young Prince Ji Haihui. Great Grand Master Xuetufu. Killing intent surged in Li Che's eyes. Intimidation. An extremely intense threat. This feeling was just like the one he had in Feilei City years ago, the same sensation the Spirit Infant sect gave him. But the Li Che of today was different. He was no longer the weak woodcarver in Feilei City, who had no power to resist and could only rely on Su Ji's wood carving shop to protect his wife and daughter. I must quickly develop the Guanyin Lotus main battle tank. Only then can I pose a threat to a great grandmaster. Besides, my Dao Fruit Dragon Elephant Vajra can also try to advance, just a little bit more. Just need 1 or 2 battles. Li Che's eyes fluttered open and shut, summarizing and organizing his strength. Having destroyed the ghost temple and killed 2 silver gang cursed copper corpse level 7 elements lower rank corpse god envoys. To Li Che, his overall power had significantly increased. But the advancement of Dragon Elephant Vajra was still a bit short. Just a little bit. If I use the Golden Heavenly King ascending stance, could I fight a great grandmaster? Maybe I could barely manage a fight. Unless I squeeze out the divine power of a Heavenly King chess piece completely. Li Che's eyes flickered as he estimated in his mind. But just 1 fight wasn't enough. Today, Xuetufa shouted at his daughter 3 times, and Li Che took note of it all, in front of everyone. He couldn't act at the time. But as a father, he must reclaim honor for his daughter. You dared to shout at my daughter? I'll twist your head off. Viciousness emerged in Li Che's eyes. Moreover, he knew that after this incident, young Prince Ji Haihui, having lost face and been deprived of his divine talent, would definitely not let Xixi off easily. After the Temple God Resonance Assembly ended, they might very well target Xixi. Naturally, Li Che would not allow such a thing to happen. He needed to plan ahead. First, augment the Dragon Elephant Vajra Dao fruit. Just a little bit more. Besides, I still have an equal to Heaven's Face, which is also a mythical weapon. If I completely free my divine sense, and wear the equal to Heaven's Face, can I fight a great grandmaster? Li Che's gaze became focused. The equal to Heaven's Face mask was too mysterious. When Li Che first got it, he tried wearing a third of it and felt a terrifying will trying to assault his consciousness. So, he was still somewhat cautious. But Li Che believed that with the equal to Heaven's Face mask on, he would definitely become stronger. Play it safe, first enhance the Dao fruit. Li Che looked up as his bones and muscles seemed to crackle and roar with his intention. The next moment, with 2 fingers pinched together, he tore open the air and took out a conical hat, a black robe, and a cute bull mask from the Kyunkan space. After placing the mask over his face, his body hummed as it swelled and expanded. Invisible airwaves roared and surged throughout the room. With 1 clench of his fist, he clutched the thunder chess piece and disappeared from the study. Only the fairy in the painting clone remained, sitting in front of the desk. Steadily, it carved away at the divine monkey wood carving. The night wind howled, and the snow fell heavily. Li Che, in the form of a bull demon, wearing a conical hat and mask, stood with his black robe fluttering in the wind and snow, his clothes cutting through the snowflakes. He raised his hand and touched his brow. Suddenly, the chess Saint Dao fruit throbbed, instantly forming a vast heaven and earth chessboard, enveloping everything around. His divine sense floated within it, his fingers flicked, and the immaculate heart chess piece fiercely struck against the refining 7 elemental corpse curse mother and child seal. Li Che moved equal to Heaven's Face to the side of the 7 elemental corpse curse mother and child seal. This technique of using power to suppress the seal, Li Che was quite skilled at it. Originally, he suppressed the sub-mark with a dark golden heavenly king chess piece, and now he used equal to Heaven's Face to suppress the mother seal. This would speed up the sacrificial refinement process. Once the 7 elemental corpse curse mother and child seal is completely refined, the range it can detect will be much broader. But now, Li Che's eyes flickered. What he could do now was to search like a sweeping net, looking for the experts of the corpse god cult. Li Che believed that there was more than just the Heart Monkey Temple as a stronghold of the corpse god cult in Golden Light Prefecture City, there must be other strongholds. He wanted to fight, and naturally, the corpse god cult was the best target. He could strike freely and joyously, and his improvement would be very fast. If he could kill another silver gang cursed copper corpse, Li Che was confident that he could completely elevate the Dragon Elephant Vajra to LV4. Undergo a different kind of transformation. By then, with the enhancement of his cross-training talent, Li Che would also have the confidence to directly face a great grandmaster. Of course, Li Che's carpet-like search was not aimless. He had the aid of the 7 elemental corpse curse seal and the heaven and earth chessboard. He would begin by investigating the targets of suspicion. The 5 Great Sects of Golden Light Prefecture. Gold Split Gate, Bamboo Forest Academy, Watching Tide Pavilion, Heart Monkey Temple, and Sand Scorpion Forest. If Heart Monkey Temple can be a stronghold of the corpse god cult, what about the others? The wind and snow blurred for a moment. The black rope billowed. Li Che appeared in front of an academy. The heaven and earth chessboard expanded and enveloped the entire academy, and then he activated the corpse curse mark, spreading waves of death chi for investigation. Located several miles outside the Golden Light Prefecture city, Bamboo Forest Academy had only the faint traces of Spirit Star death chi feedback from the 9 luminaries' corpse curse seal. Clearly, the corpse god cultists were hiding within Bamboo Forest Academy, but not in large numbers. The academy fosters integrity. The corpse god cult indeed has a hard time infiltrating. To have 2 or 3 with Spirit Star level, one would have to exploit the loopholes of those scholars with impure intentions. Li Che shook his head. He wasn't interested in the small fries marked by the 9 luminaries' corpse curse seal, nor did he wish to waste time on them. With the tap of his toe, the snow swirled away, and his figure suddenly vanished into thin air. Watching Tide Pavilion, located on the bank of 9 Dragons River, covered a vast area. Regrettably, like Bamboo Forest Academy, although it was infiltrated by the corpse god cult, the numbers were few. The bull demon once again disappeared into the snowstorm. Gold Split Gate. The moment Li Che touched down, his mind slightly stirred. Tearing through the air, the 1000 Li divine communication mirror vibrated subtly. Beneath the mask, his eyes were as calm as ancient wells. Gold Split Gate. Li Che wasn't surprised in his heart. He had always been suspicious of this force, ever since he entered the mansion city and killed his enemy, Qin Yuking, who was related to Gold Split Gate. And Qin Yuking seemed to have connections with the corpse god cult. If the divine communication mirror responds within a certain range, it means that someone nearby possesses another mirror. The other party obviously sensed it as well. They sent a message on the divine communication mirror, who? Li Che put away the divine communication mirror. The heaven and earth chessboard expanded in an instant, as death chi ripples spread out like a river tide, rushing forth and striking the quiet and low-key Gold Split Gate. Inside Gold Split Gate, intense death chi surged up as if it were smoke signals from the dead. Within Gold Split Gate, the concentration of death chi was even higher than that of Heart Monkey Temple. Beneath the mask, the gaze grew colder. The death chi was few but extremely concentrated. Even more so than Suan Li at Heart Monkey Temple. Clearing out the evil people of the corpse god cult would also increase the maturity of the dragon elephant Vajra Deo fruit. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Li Che suddenly thought of something. He smiled. Raising his hand, he tore the air apart and took out a piece of spiritual wood from the Kyunkan space effortlessly. The carving knife danced quickly, and within moments, a divine monkey mask, resembling a black flame billowing from hell, took shape in his hands. Since he was going to employ the divinity of the spirit monkey temple god, it was only natural to change his mask. With his hand as broad as a fan, he removed the bull demon mask from his face. Lifting his head, his eyes shone brightly. Li Che's lips curled into a devilishly charming smile. He slowly pressed the divine monkey mask of hellfire onto his face. His eyes shot open, pupils ablaze with golden fire. His originally burly body suddenly seemed as if it had been forged 1,000 times by the hammer, compressing down, with waves of heat surging from his smelting furnace-like body. Tonight, the bull demon is off duty. The Underworld Divine Monkey logs on. Chapter 397. Underworld, Divine Monkey. Hellfire Monkey. A new mask represents new emotions, new attitudes. The moment Li Che put on the mask, he felt a slight change in his essence, chi, and spirit. His eyes became spirited, and his essence, chi, and spirit became extremely active. There was a sense of arrogance and flamboyance, like a flower blooming in the dark, continually blossoming in his heart. Different from the bull demon's reckless abandon, the bull demon's boldness is a kind of impulse that does one's heart proud, a venting to ensure no regrets. But the arrogance and flamboyance of the hellfire monkey resembles that of a king, possessing the ultimate confidence in his own strength, daring to challenge everything, confident in his ability to contend. Therefore, the flamboyance and arrogance are not concealed in the slightest, nor is there any intention to conceal them. This is the difference between the divine monkey and the bull demon. His hair fluttered, and his eyes shone with golden flames. Li Che's eyes sparkled, his thoughts stirring. Now am not a weakling either. I need this battle to break the shackles, to break through to a new realm. So, I don't need to be low-key, I need to be arrogant. His fingers pressed against the mask, a low, crazed voice bursting from his throat. He looked at the gold split gate in the dark. Even though the death chi emanating from within the gold split gate was stronger than that of Abbot Xian Li of the Heart Monkey Temple, who was a septenary corpse god envoy, Li Che was not afraid. On the contrary, he was eager to challenge the other, to bring the opponent down. However, though the mask had changed him slightly, freeing a bit of his reckless nature, Li Che's inherent caution would not change. Challenges should be met, but the necessary preparations cannot be ignored. Beneath the divine monkey mask, Li Che smiled faintly. With a sudden flick of his sleeve, in an instant, the duplicates of the fairy in the painting, which had been meticulously prepared using the fairy in the painting technique, emerged one after another from the Immaculate Heart Divinity paper. 16 bull demons, each carrying an immortal artisan Gatling, began to unleash covering fire. Horseface, from a distance, gripped an immortal artisan Barrett, realizing long-range strikes. The mechanical cranes, akin to mechanical dogs, had been installed with the great avalanche Guanyin Lotus bullet by Li Che, capable of self-destructing and detonating. However, each mechanical crane could only carry a maximum of 50 divine chess pieces worth of avalanche lotus bullets. It was considered a small lotus bullet. Any more, and the mechanical crane wouldn't be able to handle the load, unable to carry them. But for Li Che, it was more than enough. 50 divine chess pieces worth of Guanyin lotus bullets. He pressed his palm down lightly. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. These figures slipped one by one into the darkness. The mechanical cranes also began to run at high speed, and the next moment, they took flight, rapidly heading towards the territory of the gold split gate. Boom boom boom. Shortly afterward, flames erupted, explosions rolling, igniting from all directions. Although each mechanical crane could only carry a few Guanyin lotus bullets, the resulting explosions and the resulting damage were not minor. The cultivators below the rank of Master Divine Physiognomy, in such explosions, mostly had only one fate, utter defeat. Who dares to launch a sneak attack on the gold split gate? Rumbles of anger burst forth from within the gold split gate. A powerful divine minister's aura surged forth, with a golden glow adhering to the sword, whistling through the air, unleashing boundless sharpness. The entire night sky seemed illuminated. The gold split gate ancestor's eyes were about to split, watching the gates of gold split gate continuously erupt with fireworks, a look of terror flashing in his eyes. Such a tactic! Bull demon! He growled out loud. Exposed, is it? Impossible. The gold split gate had been so low-key, without any abnormal moves, and all the experts who joined the corpse god cult settled down. They withdrew not only from the Golden Light Prefecture city but also sealed the corpse curse mark almost entirely. They were all waiting for the opening and conclusion of the Temple God Resonance Congress. But the gold split gate ancestor had never imagined that the bull demon would still come after them. After annihilating the Heart Monkey Temple, the bull demon still targeted their gold split gate. If we don't get rid of this bull demon, it will be a huge obstacle for the corpse god cult's work to unfold in the Golden Light Prefecture. The eyes of the gold split gate ancestor brimmed with killing intent. In the endless sea of flames, the gold split gate ancestor, too, had an extremely intense death chi and corpse chi emerge, with his physical body flashing with copper brilliance and silver gang. He no longer concealed himself. With the appearance of the bull demon, he knew that the gold split gate could no longer stay hidden. If they didn't counterattack promptly, they might end up just like the Heart Monkey Temple. The fate of being utterly annihilated by the bull demon. Boom! From within the gold split gate, a figure wrapped in a white robe and wearing a blood-red 7 mask burst into the sky. This was the second of the septenary corpse god envoys hidden within the gold split gate. The 2 septenary corpse god envoys hovered in the high sky. The gold split gate ancestor took a blood-red 7 mask from the Kyunkan jade and covered his face, and both of their immensely powerful divine senses surged and spread. The bull demon was courting death. Inside the gold split gate were 2 corpse god envoys no weaker than Xian Li. If the bull demon dared to come, then tonight it would stay. Among the rumble of countless explosions, one after another wooden spirit crane, made of spiritual wood, raced to the high sky and then folded its wings. Sharp as javelins, the crane's beaks aimed at the gold split gate and hurled down. The mechanical cranes fell, exploding instantly. A mushroom cloud 2 to 3 meters tall rose, the shockwave surged. along with the screams of the hidden corpse god cult experts within the gold split gate. Undoubtedly accurate, too precise. This bull demon, he's like an insider of our corpse god cult. He even knows the location of our followers better than we, the two septenary corpse god envoys. Chapter 398. Gold Split Gates Patriarch Jin Zingli spoke in a deep voice. Another septenary corpse god envoy stared intently at the scene through the mask. It seems, we must report to the higher-ups of the Dao City Corpse God sect. Also, this Gold Split Gate outpost is no longer viable, we must abandon it. Our location has been revealed, the Temple Control Bureau, the Kintian Observatory, and the high-ranking experts from the Golden Light sub-sect are likely to smell blood and come for the kill. Kill the bull demon before we leave. The bull demon has mastered the art of teleportation. With our space-time corpse technique, we'll cause turmoil and seal off the space, making it hard for him to teleport. Perhaps then we will have a chance to eliminate him. If we could kill the bull demon, it would surely be a great achievement within the sect in the Lingnan circuit. The Patriarch of the Gold Split Gate said, his voice brimming with anger. Just let him go like this? He couldn't accept it. The other septenary corpse god envoy hesitated for a moment. This bull demon is adept at mechanisms and calculations, he won't engage us in a one-on-one fight. He had researched the circumstances after the destruction of the Heart Monkey Temple. He had deduced the method the bull demon used to breach the Heart Monkey Temple. At this moment, he actually did not want to clash with the bull demon to the death, such opponents were too difficult to deal with. Unable to kill or capture them, and once provoked, they would periodically launch unexpected attacks. Liking to use poison, liking to employ mechanisms and hidden weapons. Where was this a bull demon at all, but rather a venomous snake that lurked in darkness, picking its victims to bite. However, the Gold Split Gate Patriarch was somewhat carried away. Suddenly, both of their minds shook violently, and they swiftly turned their gaze towards the entrance of the Gold Split Gate mountain gate. Within the thick, rolling dust, a dark shadow emerged, stepping through the melting snow in the heat wave, turning into puddles. Splish, splash. The sound of puddles being burst and the droplets falling back down was incredibly loud. The flames reflected the dust and illuminated that dark figure. It was a gaunt shadow, slowly emerging. The figure was carrying a long red spear on their neck and shoulder, with both hands drooping over it. With each step, swaying and languid, there was an air of laziness that could not conceal the arrogance and confidence. That is. The eyes of the two septenary corpse god envoys furrowed abruptly, focusing on the slowly approaching silhouette. Then, there was a hint of astonishment. Because what they saw was not the adorably cute bull mask that had haunted their dreams. Instead, it was a monkey mask with a hairy muzzle and a thunder god's face, the monkey's face bearing a smile, confident and soaring. A monkey. Not the bull demon. The two were taken aback, speaking in shock. The divine monkey wore a black bodysuit, and since it could not find a staff-shaped divine weapon, it made do with the gilded blood-shock spear for the time being. In Li Che's opinion, the difference between a spear and a staff wasn't substantial. One was blunt and the other sharp-ended. When strength was sufficient and speed was fast enough, even a staff could pierce and kill like a spear. He took a step forward, and the black bodysuit fluttered in the wind. Li Che looked up at the two septenary corpse god envoys floating in the air. Cultivators at the level of divine symbol, and with the strength of a silver rigid cursed bronze corpse. They were a bit stronger than Sun Li. The depth of the Gold Split Gates corpse god sect was truly profound. Underworld, divine monkey. Today, I shall slay evil, let's have a showdown. Raising the carved mask with flying monkey fur, his eyes narrowed into a fierce smile. The next moment, Li Che had a thought. A divine chess piece of the Fire Eye mystical awe-spirit monkey temple god was immediately suspended in the heaven and earth chessboard, and his divine sense's 5 fingers grasped it tightly. Then it was viciously crushed to pieces. Instantly, power violently surged into Li Che's limbs and bones. Ascending the tower. His body height increased ever so slightly, but his muscles tightened like a twisted screw, each muscle fiber twisted and entwined to the extreme, like braids woven tightly together. The terrifying power exploded and vented through every twisted muscle fiber. Hair grew, falling to his waist. It whipped up fiercely like a cape. The two septenary corpse god envoys were astonished beyond belief. No bull demon appeared, instead, a monkey had rushed out. Swinging a long spear, it fearlessly charged towards them. However, they soon trembled with emotion. This is Temple God Divinity. It seems to be the divinity of the Fire Eye mystical Awe-Spirit Ape Strange Temple. Their hearts were tremendously shaken. They exchanged looks, their eyes conveying a brewing storm of feelings. This underworld. What background does it have? Inside the Heart Monkey Temple, Sun Li was originally following the commands of the high-ranking members of the Dao City Corpse God sect, intending to capture the temple god of the Fire Eye mystical Awe-Spirit Ape Strange Temple. But after the temple was destroyed by the Bull Demon, now there was a monkey from the underworld possessing the divinity of a temple god. This underworld. Could it be competing with the Corpse God sect for temple gods? But they couldn't afford to dwell on it. The divine monkey moved in an instant, stomping down heavily. The ground collapsed with a boom, and spider web-like cracks radiated outwards, as a burst of dust and shock waves billowed out like a curtain, spreading far and wide. One piece was not enough. Inside the heaven and earth chessboard, Li Chai's divine sense seemed to laugh wildly, flicking with his fingertips. The second one. The third one. 3 Fire Eye mystical Awe-Spirit Monkey Temple God Divinity chess pieces were consecutively shattered. In an instant, the divine pressure unleashed between heaven and earth became more terrifying. Martial Saint Ultimate Study. Primordial equal to Heaven Staff. The Gold Split Gate was not far from Golden Light Prefecture City. As the explosions resonated, all factions within the Mansion City felt them. Void aspects, divine symbol cultivators' divine senses swept across the sky. Some powerhouses rose into the air, looking far into the distance. A moment later, the Temple Control Bureau, the Kintian Observatory, the Divine Guard Army, and the Golden Light Sub-Sect all had strong auras sweeping across the heavens. Li Qingshan, in a green shirt, was flying with his hands clasped behind his back, stepping on the void. After breaking through to the Divine Phase realm, his flight had become all the more effortless and composed. Chapter 399. Li Qingshan's elderly face was etched with deep distress, almost as if he would start beating his chest and stamping his feet in public. Based on his experience, the Bull Demon was once again amusing himself with a fun game, leaving him out. Lin Qiu looked at Li Qingshan strangely, her eyes conveying a message. Li Qingshan instantly felt a lot better, at least the Bull Demon hadn't included Lin Qiu in the fun either, which was somewhat acceptable. He shook his head, indicating he was not aware of the plan. A supervisor from the Temple Control Bureau and a commander from the Divine Guard Army appeared out of nowhere. One wore official robes, the other donned armor. The eyes of the Divine Guard Army commander flickered, scanning Li Qingshan and Lin Qiu. Now, within Golden Light Prefecture City, there was an unspoken truth that spread around. Li Qingshan and Lin Qiu had joined the underworld underneath the Ox Demon and Horse Face, becoming members of the underworld themselves. 4 top powerhouses of Golden Light Prefecture City exchanged glances, the atmosphere peculiar, with no one saying anything. They each sped towards the Gold Split Gate encampment outside the city. By the time they reached the mountain gate of Gold Split Gate, the great flames were still burning. The 4 had no time to pay attention to the situation within the mountain gate, their gazes fell instead upon the pit-ridden battlefield in the distance. There, 2 figures kneeled on the ground, their clothes tattered, revealing the bronze-colored bodies of cursed copper corpses. But these cursed copper corpses had been beaten to the point where their bones were broken, and their vitality extinguished. Fierce lifeblood interwove wildly, with rampant and untamed divinity surging ceaselessly. And beside those 2 high-level practitioners of the corpse god cult, stood a figure in black, wearing a divine monkey mask, head tilted, carrying a red divine spear on their neck and shoulder, hands hanging loosely, looking wildly at them. It wasn't the Bull Demon. Even Li Qingshan and Lin Qiu were taken aback. This was not the Bull Demon's fighting style. There was no divine crystal powder in the air, nor any instant cyanide poison powder. The 2 Seven Elements corpse god envoys from the corpse god cult had been utterly obliterated, killed on the spot with sheer, overwhelming combat power and techniques. They vaguely sensed, even from the dying air, the presence of that wild and unruly battle. 1 against 2. Yet he burst the 2 Silver Gang 7 Elements corpse god envoys. So domineering and wild. Even Li Qingshan couldn't help but inhale sharply. The underworld, the divine monkey. The divine monkey with its head cocked let out a slight chuckle. Then, with the tip of his toes behind him, the thick smoke billowed, and the figure plunged into it. The commander of the Divine Guard Army shouted angrily and rushed forward, only to find that within the dense smoke, there was no trace of the divine monkey. Gone. just like the bull demon, appearing and disappearing mysteriously. This commander, clutching onto his long saber, had heavy flashes of solemnity in his eyes. The ox demon and horse face, now joined by a divine monkey. Unknown, always unknown. Who is the bull demon? Who is horse face? This divine monkey, who is it? Underworld. Divine monkey. Li Qingshan and Lin Qiu exchanged a glance, a faint light flickering in their eyes. A comrade from the underworld. Their hearts stirred slightly, emotions swirling within. So domineering, so wild, so arrogant. The bull demon is subtly rampant and sinister, horse face is sleazy and enigmatic, but this divine monkey, sheer dominance and outrageous arrogance. Li Qingshan felt his own dominance, seemed to have been outshone. Lin Qiu clicked his tongue in admiration. Compared to the ox demon and horse face, he preferred this domineering and blustering divine monkey. He even imitated the divine monkey's pose, with a tilted head and carrying a divine spear. In a posture of lazy slouch, there was an arrogance that seemed to disdain heaven and earth. Underworld. The divine minister of the Temple Control Bureau at the Divine Phase Realm, glanced at Li Qingshan and Lin Qiu. He did not say much. Although he was discontent with actions of the underworld's beings like the divine monkey and the bull demon. But, he had to admit, the assistance of these masters from the underworld helped the Temple Control Bureau find the evildoers planted by the corpse god cult in Golden Light Prefecture, which indeed was a substantial help. During that incident at Heart Monkey Temple, the Temple Control Bureau's side was sweating bullets. It became clear that the corpse god cult's evildoers in the temple intended to target the mysterious temple. And this time, Gold Split Gate, harboring the rebels of the corpse god cult. Deserving of death 1,000 times over. The supervisor spoke out loud, his powerful divine sense spreading out. He immediately condemned the Gold Split Gate. Those evildoers of the corpse god cult, who had been exposed by the bombings, revealed their corpse curse technique, and had not died in the explosions but were injured and unable to escape quickly, were caught and suppressed in despair. What a pity! The septenary corpse god envoy who died was not the one our Temple Control Bureau had investigated, Yuan Jinggong. The massacre of the whole Feilei city, it was masterminded from behind by Yuan Jinggong. We have no idea where this Yuan Jinggong is hiding. The supervisor of the Temple Control Bureau shook his head and heaved a sigh. Li Qingshan and Lin Qiu exchanged a glance. Yuan Jinggong. Old Zhao, tell us in detail. Lin Qiu and this supervisor, Zhao Yang of the Temple Control Bureau, were quite familiar with each other, and he couldn't help but ask. Supervisor Zhao Yang gave a brief introduction of Yuan Jinggong, but did not give away too much. This Yuan Jinggong is no weakling, he's not your ordinary Seven Elements Corpse God envoy, but the head of operations for the Corpse God cult in Golden Light Prefecture. The 1,000 Infants Banquet at Feilei City was orchestrated by him. This person is strong. If you encounter him, avoid direct confrontation, best find the governor's office, the chief supervisor, or the southern sect master. Yuan Jinggong's strength is substantial. The governor's office once exchanged blows with him on the Nine Dragons River outside the Third Prince's mysterious temple. He might have already half-stepped into the realm of accursed silver corpse, and his divine cultivation has also reached the Yuanxiang realm. Supervisor Zhao Yang was very serious. Li Qingshan and Lin Qiu were silent. With such strength, if they faced off, they feared the risk of being killed. Fire Eye Mysterious Awestruck Spirit Ape Strange Temple. Chapter 400. The white candle burned quietly, but suddenly it flickered restlessly. As if a sudden fierce wind had blown through. Inside the tranquil temple, a figure appeared out of nowhere. Li Che, wearing the divine monkey mask, clenched a thunder chess piece. The chess piece shattered and dissipated, and the madness and ferocity in his eyes slowly faded away. The lingering, restless temple god divinity on his body began to stir, which in turn caused the temple god divinity within the mysterious temple to fluctuate and boil. Li Che removed the divine monkey mask, shook his head, and the temple god divinity within him slowly dispersed. His body was steaming hot, and every pore was emitting a heat wave. Awesome! Li Che raised his face, his hair tips glistening with sweat beads, a smile hanging on his lips. Martial Saint Ultimate Study. Though incomplete, its power is truly remarkable, especially under the stimulation of the Fire Eye Mystical Awe Spirit Monkey Temple God Divinity. The power is ridiculously great. The shadow of the stick shocks the heavens. Li Che's eyes sparkled brightly. With a clench of his fingers, the Lu blood shock spear in his hand trembled, suddenly bursting into a peacock's tail-like spread of shadows. The air currents stirred violently, and the air cried out as if it could no longer bear the strain. Inside the mysterious temple, the candle light flickered incessantly, casting Li Chei's wildly contorted shadow. Martial Saint Ultimate Study, primordial equal to Heaven Staff. Minor accomplishment achieved. Li Chei started to laugh. This stick technique, he had just begun to learn. Yet today, he had achieved a minor accomplishment so quickly. All he could say was, this battle made him feel truly as if endowed with divine assistance. As if invoking the divine within himself, he wielded the stick technique. Li Chei stowed away the Lu blood shock spear. There was a slight look of regret on his face. It's a pity I didn't get a divine warrior treasure stick. It's not quite handy. Li Chei muttered. His gaze fell on the spirit monkey temple god statue on the altar. The statue appeared to shudder slightly. Since I'm here already. Li Chei leapt onto the altar, positioned himself in front of the spirit monkey temple god statue, and stretched out his hand to rub its head. The star-plucking pupil in his forehead opened, drawing in the temple god divinity chess piece. Although Li Chei now used the star-plucking pupil to draw things remotely, he still enjoyed the sensation of touch. He intended to savor the tactile feel of every temple god. After completing the absorption of the divinity chess piece, Li Chei let go of his hand, completely satisfied. He seemed to hear the infuriated screams of a monkey. Li Chei took it as the creature expressing comfort beyond restraint. He descended from the altar. And Li Chei immediately sat down cross-legged. What a pity, I didn't make a trip to the Gold Split Gate's treasury. No time. However, it probably doesn't matter. Since the Gold Split Gate has become the stronghold of the corpse god cult, their treasury must have been emptied out long ago. Taking these two 7 elements corpse god envoys Kyunkan Jades is pretty much the same. Li Chei took out 2 Kyunkan Jades. Though he had changed from the bull demon to the divine monkey, his temper greatly changed. But, one thing that remained consistent was his instinct for looting corpses. This was an instinct that wouldn't change no matter how many identities he assumed, a basic practice in the martial world. Although looting anything may harm himself, what needed to be looted still had to be looted. Li Chei didn't rush to open the Kyunkan Jade. Instead, he threw the 2 pieces of Kyunkan Jade into the Kyunkan space, planning to open them later. He had serious matters to attend to now. Inhale. Exhale. With each breath, the world instantly quieted. Only the thunderous beat of the Dao fruit within his chest remained, exploding in his ears like thunder. One Dao fruit pulsed suddenly, as if triggering the others to pulsate incessantly. With a thought, brilliant light suddenly flickered at the bottom of his eyes. It appeared like an explosion of fireworks, dazzlingly unfolding before his eyes. Dao fruit, Dragon Elephant Vajra, LV 4,0%. It's here. Li Chei suddenly opened his eyes, and within his pupils, it seemed dragons and elephants shadowed. The scene before him underwent a drastic transformation. A mighty force suddenly pulled him into the vastness of the universe. The boundless universe. Godly trees rose from the ground, reaching the heavens. Branches spread wide, lush, and endless, with colorful, glimmering Dao fruits hanging from them, shining brightly. Li Chei's gaze was instantly captured by one particularly dazzling Dao fruit. He saw that the Dao fruit seemed to shake violently. Suddenly, bursting forth with endless rosy clouds. The rosy clouds covered the sun and the sky, transforming in Li Chei's eyes into a true dragon and a giant elephant. Both creatures, as if from ancient times, unleashed terrifying might, making one's hair stand on end and one's spirit seem frozen. The rich dragon elephant rosy clouds suddenly surged towards Li Chei. In an instant, Li Chei felt every pore on his body violently burst open. Like engulfing, he devoured all the swarming rosy clouds into his body. Li Chei's consciousness swiftly exited the boundless universe. His eyes opened, and within his pupils, it seemed endless rosy clouds tumbled. Pain. Intense agony spread throughout his body. Li Chei felt every inch of his bones, every tendon, every piece of flesh, every cell undergoing a transformation. Reborn from the bones up. His entire body trembled, the backbone snapped like mighty serpents, his spine seemingly straightened in an instant, like a true dragon roaring in fury. Crack 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 crack. Bones and muscles sang in unison. Flesh roared. Unlike the second transformation with the immortal artisan Dao fruit at LV4, which was completely painless. The immortal artisan's second transformation felt like everything falling into its rightful place, as refreshing as a spring breeze. But the transformation of the dragon elephant Vajra Deo fruit felt like it was tearing his body apart to be recast. Li Che was instantly drenched in sweat, his body covered in a mist of blood. Yet, his eyes were bright, staring at the flowing light before him. Then he saw Deo fruit LV4, second transformation, prototype of divine powers, dragon elephant Vajra ascend, promoted, acquiring divine skills, dragon elephant Vajra, cloud lift. Deo fruit second transformation. Divine skills, cloud lift. Chapter 401. Divine skills. Rosy cloud lift. Li Che's muscles and bones uncontrollably trembled, emitting all sorts of crackling sounds as if his internal skeleton was frictionally shifting, undergoing a complete transformation. Yet, his eyes were unprecedentedly bright, staring at the prompt that appeared before him. Dragon elephant Vajra, cloud lift. Li Che breathed heavily, and large beads of sweat slid down his forehead, dropping to the ground with a plink, and completely shattering. Before him, the prompt changed again. Rosy cloud lift, divine skills ascending the tower, flesh and blood transcending, earth evil to heaven's gang, snapping stars with a flick. First layer of heaven, chi and blood rosy clouds. Metamorphosis of chi and blood, rosy clouds naturally forming, sea gods in flight, omnipotent. Second heaven. The hints for the new divine skills spread out slowly from the depth of his heart, blossoming like ink blurring. Li Che's gaze sharpened. Sure enough, just like the divine skills obtained from the immortal artisan, it was divided into the first layer of heaven and the second heaven, mainly because his strength was too weak to trigger the second heaven, or rather, the maturity of the Deo fruit wasn't sufficient. Chi and blood rosy clouds. What is it? Confusion surfaced in Li Che's mind. But there was no time to think more. The second transformation brought by the dragon elephant Vajra Deo fruit triggered a complete metamorphosis on Li Che's flesh. It was like scorching hot lava from an extreme volcano, rolling down and colliding with his fiery hot stone-like muscles and bones. It felt as though burning flames were smelting his internal organs, igniting his viscera, burning his flesh and spreading intense heat and pain throughout his body. Everywhere burned, everywhere hurt. Li Che felt as though he was a huge furnace, with himself as the raw material for forging a precious steel blade placed within it. The flames burned intensely, seeming to char him to a crisp. They were refining his body to its utmost, squeezing the essence and limits of his flesh. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Inside the mysterious temple, waves of air rose, and white steam erupted from his pores, shooting out like the steam from a high-pressure cooker. Li Che's skin radiated a red glow, as if filled with red fluorescent material, blooming a crimson color in the darkness. Li Che was incredibly tense, and as his body transformed, the inner scene of the energy center also intensely vibrated. The transformation of the body was indeed related to the spirit, complementing each other. Star-plucking pupil. Divine skills manifested. From Li Che's brow burst forth, his flesh seeming to split open as an eyeball slowly opened, appearing to emit endless divine light shooting out from the pupil. Boom boom boom. Shockwaves radiated out from Li Che's body, expanding in rings towards the surroundings. Striking harshly against the temple walls, causing the mysterious temple to tremble as if it were shaking. Li Che could feel waves of intense, scorching heat mingling with the fearsome power refining muscles and tempering bones, traveling astonishingly swiftly in a circuit throughout his body. The speed was too fast. The skin membrane emitted intense heat. Li Che felt his skin being scorched stiff, falling off, shattering. Li Che looked up and howled long, stood up, clenched his fists, and began to practice martial arts within the temple. Roar! Howl! The sound of the dragon's chant and the elephant's scream exploded and shook the air. His chi and blood burst forth in a mist of blood, spraying out from every single pore, seeming to form a dragon and an elephant's shadow, coiling around Li Che. Li Che pushed forward on the martial path, practicing his self-created ultimate technique, Myriad Transformations Dragon Elephant. Within Myriad Transformations Dragon Elephant, many ultimate techniques were merged: Pale Thunder Body, 8 Flood Dragons overturning the rivers, 9 Seals of Mechanism, Crimson Flame Flowing Fire Divine Arrow, and the combined volumes of the 1000 Armed Divine Sculpture. And also the Martial Saint Ultimate Study, Primordial equal to Heaven Staff. Li Che continuously practiced martial arts, continuously striking with his fists, merging many ultimate techniques, even of different types. All were revealed as mysteries within his punching technique. At this moment, Li Che was drenched in sweat, blood spattering wildly, his chi and blood steaming around him, forming a rich atmosphere of rosy clouds of qi and blood. A blessing to the heart and spirit, like an overwhelming tide impacting Li Chai's mind at this moment. Transparent, clear, enlightened. At this moment, Li Chai felt that his understanding of the ultimate studies was rapidly ascending. An epiphany. Similar to an epiphany. The second transformation of Dao fruit, the advancement of divine skills, made Li Chai enter a state seemingly of martial path enlightenment. All sorts of ultimate techniques in his mind became clear. He rapidly mastered them. Even the difficult to understand martial saint ultimate study, primordial equal to heaven staff, seemed to be something he could rhythmically advance. This efficiency, compared to the past, was simply 10 to 100 times higher. Li Chai's body trembled, his heart thrilled immensely, even though his muscles and bones endured almost inhuman pain and transformation. But the gain of this moment was immense. With a clench of his fingers, it seemed he could shatter the air, thrusting out his fist, his qi and blood roared through him like thunder. True qi and energy intertwined, rushing into his internal organs, tempering them intensely. The energy spread and expanded from his spine, like a great net throughout his body. His muscles, under high-speed vibration, seemed to undergo a high-frequency forging, achieving a transformation akin to a divine weapon. Li Chai's spirit was more excited than ever. His energy mobilized, the star-plucking pupil at his forehead stimulated, perceiving all the conditions within his body. A surge of energy, rapidly coursing, he held his breath, suppressing this energy in the energy center. That was the energy of the martial path. This moment of transformation was extremely crucial. While the physical body was in pain and the spirit fatigued, this energy was fundamental to the transformation. Once this breath was released, the transformation would abruptly end, perhaps with some physical breakthroughs, but with the release of this breath, the essence created by the refinement of flesh and blood would evaporate. Chapter 402. And then, there was a severe deficiency of essence, qi, and spirit. Instead, it could turn an opportunity into a serious cultivation mistake. The 5 viscera and 6 bowels were being tempered, tendons, bones, meridians, and membranes were also being tempered. To the naked eye, muscles and skin trembled at a super high frequency, vibrating hundreds of times in a second. The whole person even vibrated out a blurred shadow. The thick fog of qi and blood gushed out, growing denser, and a stream of qi that had been condensed now occupied the danshan. Punch. Continue punching. Primordial equal to heaven staff. Li Chai's fingers clenched, and the Lu blood shock spear was suddenly gripped again. He swept it fiercely, and the terrifying whipping force made the air explode with a burst. An overwhelming force, obliterating everything. The sound of blood flowing at high speed was like the raging waves of the 9 Dragons River, billowing and raging. Countless spear shadows densely accumulated within the mysterious temple. Thump. Suddenly, Li Chai paused, and the Lu blood shock spear in his hands seemed to emit a mournful cry, as if overburdened. This spear, after all, was but a 9 luminaries divine weapon. At this moment, it somewhat couldn't keep up with Li Chai's strength and rhythm. It was somewhat unable to withstand the power of the martial saint ultimate study, the chaos heaven matching staff. The spearhead plummeted heavily. Striking the void, the air seemed to cave in deeply. Creating ripples of air vortexes, accompanied by the hot air jetting from the millions of pores on Li Chai's body, struck out of the mysterious temple, surging and sweeping toward all directions. The thick fog of Strange K was instantaneously stirred up. Within Strange K, the figures of temple guardian cursed corpses were restlessly flickering. It was dead of night, the mysterious temple of the Fire Eye mystical awe spirit monkey. Silent beyond measure. Within the camp, lights flickered. Qi Yang Hao, the supervisor going through documents quietly, suddenly turned pale with a drastic change. He grabbed the side knife on the desk and dashed out of the camp, appearing outside the warning line where the thick fog of Strange K churned. The rest of the divine envoys in charge of the mysterious temple also sensed the commotion and rushed over. They stood outside Strange K, watching the ceaseless churning, as if waves were constantly crashing within, making Strange K suddenly surge with a powerful, boiling presence. The faces of the few changed involuntarily. Boss, this couldn't be another uprising, could it? An uprising in the mysterious temple, again? The last time, the woodcarvers from the Kintian Observatory had just caused an uprising while observing the temple god, though it eventually turned out to be a false alarm. But it already had them on edge. This time. Is it coming again? Qi Yanghao's face was extremely grave. Not sure, don't know what happened inside Strange K, no, looking at this situation, something must have happened inside the mysterious temple. Regardless, prepare for battle. I've already felt within Strange K, those temple guardian cursed corpses that have been tainted by the temple god divinity are agitated. Be ready at all times. Once Strange K erupts, and the temple guardian cursed corpses start killing, you must immediately return to Mansion City and report to the supervisor to ask him to take charge. Qi Yanghao drew his sharp-side knife, his expression solemn. The other officers said nothing. They had experienced many eruptions of Strange K and were naturally not the ignorant youngsters who knew nothing. It was just uncertain how many divine envoys would die this time during the eruption of Strange K. Qi Yanghao stood with the other officers, side knife in hand, staunchly guarding outside the warning line. However, gradually, the tumultuous Strange K suddenly became peaceful. The temple guardian cursed corpses and monsters inside Strange K fell into a silence as still as death, as if they were deterred by some terrifying existence and dared not make a sound. Qi Yanghao's tense nerves gradually relaxed. Another, false eruption. Qi Yanghao's mouth twitched. It wasn't. Are temple gods always this mischievous? Always playing like this, it's really torturous, isn't it? Inside the mysterious temple, it was extremely quiet, with only the sound of steady and powerful breathing. A thick mist of qi and blood enveloped every corner of the mysterious temple, transforming it into a temple of blood. Li Che sat cross-legged in the center of the temple, slowly opened his eyes, and within the blood mist-covered mysterious temple, it seemed as if a flash of lightning streaked by. Bang bang bang! His heart seemed to revive, beating violently and blasting out surging blood into his limbs and bones. Everything began to awaken, and the flesh that had undergone transformation and rebirth, completely woke up. The blood surged, sinews and bones resonated, and the stomach churned. Every organ in his body seemed to undergo metamorphosis, gaining a new life. Li Che raised his hand, and with a clench of his fingers, countless mists of blood coalesced, as if forming a blood sphere that enveloped him. Then, as Li Che spread his fingers, the blood mist exploded. It transformed into billowing rosy clouds. Qi and blood rosy clouds. Li Che's mind stirred slightly, as if he had formed an indescribable connection with these qi and blood rosy clouds. Rosy clouds enveloped within a 3-yard radius around him. It wasn't large, but it was as if he had grown countless eyes, allowing him to see everything clearly within the span of the rosy clouds. Even more, he could control these qi and blood rosy clouds and change them into various shapes. Compressing, boiling, tearing, kneading. These qi and blood rosy clouds seemed to have become his new organs. This sense of control was like gaining an additional hand. With a thought, these steaming qi and blood rosy clouds instantly retracted into his pores. Scalable at will, hidden and explosive, as he desired. This feeling was truly unique. Divine skills, truly worthy of the name. The mind shifts. The qi and blood rosy clouds seemed to have turned into thin clothing, the color of which could even change with his thoughts, refracting light to display a variety of colors. Chapter 403. Shedding the nascent qi and blood, rosy clouds arose by themselves, flying to the heavens meeting the divine, omnipotent. Li Che thought of the introduction regarding the qi and blood rosy clouds. As his strength grew, it seemed that the qi and blood rosy clouds also intensified. The most important thing was flying to the heavens meeting the divine. Li Che stood up, and a terrifying aura explosively burst forth from his body. He snapped his fingers. Instantly, the qi and blood rosy clouds burst forth, enveloping his body in a crimson cage, slowly gathering under his feet to form a cloud of blood. The blood cloud gently lifted Li Che's body, slowly floating into the air. Is this a somersault cloud? Li Che's expression was bizarre. Of course, the crimson cloud still didn't quite resemble one. With a mere thought, the qi and blood rosy clouds, carrying Li Che, raced around inside the mysterious temple. Gradually, the qi and blood rosy clouds seemed to be learning, becoming more flexible. Li Che didn't even need to focus his mind on controlling it, it moved extremely nimbly, rushing about, up and down, left and right. Even if Li Che assumed the posture of diving from a high platform, the blood cloud could smoothly catch him. Exceptionally nimble. It wasn't cumbersome at all in flight. Moving with ease, like a fish leaping through the sea. Inside the mysterious temple, candle flames flickered incessantly. On the altar, the eyes of the spirit monkey temple god statue sparkled, watching Li Che ride upon the blood cloud and tumble around. The entire mysterious temple seemed to tremble slightly at this moment. Li Che landed on the ground, the qi and blood rosy clouds forming a black robe that covered his body. He let out a long sigh, a smile hanging by his lips. With a clench of his fingers, air was pulled into 5 rippling waves. Muscles vibrated, bones erupted with a burst. Dragon tendons and elephant bones. Qi and blood rosy clouds. Second transformation of the dragon elephant Vajra Deo fruit had brought about enormous changes for Li Che. Strengthened. Completely strengthened. Li Che could feel the transformation of his physique, his cross-training talent grew stronger again, his physical strength skyrocketing rapidly. Now, my qi and blood martial cultivation has roughly reached the Grandmaster posterior realm, with all my organs having completed the qi and blood tempering. Now, I can use the Master's ultimate study's true intent to temper my organs. Once true intent saturates my organs, I can reach the Grandmaster completion. When I comprehend the martial Dao will and give birth to divine gang, only then can I truly step into the realm of a great Grandmaster. Li Che's eyes sparkled. My myriad transformations dragon elephant, fused with the primordial equal to heaven staff, can also be considered a martial saint ultimate study. If I can refine the true intent to temper the organs, the effects will naturally be even better. The divine gang of dragon elephant that arises will be stronger too. The divine gang of a great Grandmaster, and the silver gang of the cursed silver corpse were quite different. Spirit and meaning combine, qi forms the gang flow, which is divine gang. Divine gang is not just a form of power, but also a domain. In terms of strength, the divine gang of a great Grandmaster is still stronger. And the strength of a great Grandmaster's divine gang also relates to one's own martial Dao will, as well as the ultimate study cultivated at the Grandmaster level. Martial Saint ultimate studies are rare and difficult to cultivate, making it even more challenging to reach the transformation realm and step into the great Grandmaster. Li Che didn't believe that Xue Dufu had broken through to great Grandmaster using a martial Saint ultimate study. If it were really so. Thunder chess pieces arranged properly. So. Li Che's eyes sparkled, could he now compete against a great Grandmaster in battle? Only one way to find out. Li Che stood up, muscles and bones simultaneously trembling with a resonant quiver. He twisted his neck, every inch of his flesh and tendons screaming out in burst, releasing a terrifyingly powerful strength. Xue Dufu. Li Che closed his eyes. Daytime scenes surged into his mind. Atop Golden Light Peak. Xue Dufu, this great Grandmaster, repeatedly yelled at XIXI. This grudge. It digs into the heart and cuts the bones. Li Che suddenly opened his eyes, his killing intent thick and rolling. Wham! His body suddenly swelled up. Li Che's black robe swirled, wrapping around his body, and he put on his hat. He didn't activate the Kyunkan Jade of the 2 septenary corpse god envoys, because Li Che was too impatient, too eager for a battle with Xue Dufu. His daughter had been wronged. Daddy has come to claim revenge. He pressed down his hat. Li Che clenched his fist, the thunder chess piece flashed momentarily, disappearing within the mysterious temple. The mysterious temple finally returned to calm. The thick, scalding mist of blood also finally completely dispersed. Above the altar, the spirit monkey temple god statue shook slightly. It seemed to sigh deeply. This damn fool, finally took off. Golden Light Prefecture City. Falling Flower Alley, a stand-alone workshop courtyard. Li Che appeared in the courtyard, dressed in his black hat and robe. Xue Dufu, the one-armed master of divine gang, great grandmaster of the first layer of heaven, with divine cultivation strength unknown but formidable, he mustn't be underestimated. Li Che was as cautious as ever. Acting carelessly brings about regrets and tears. Steadiness is one of the fundamental principles for establishing oneself in this world. He pondered for a moment in the courtyard. Li Che snapped his fingers. Suddenly, within the house, 7 avatars of Li Che, who were refining divinity in the fairy in the painting, exploded. 7 emotions divinity, all returned into the inner scene of the energy center within Li Che. The 7 wheels divine base all vibrated and then grew stronger. Under the nourishing of one divine crystal after another, the 7 wheels divine base, all reached the post-divine foundation realm. The divinity within Li Che suddenly expanded dramatically, swirling like a storm within the house. The 7 wheels ladder realm divine base, at this moment, showed tremendous power, even comparable to a divine minister. After setting up the mechanism properly, Li Che's divinity mingled with his vital energy, transforming into divine ink, and he splashed it onto the immaculate heart drawing paper. Then Horseface gradually tilted out of the scroll. Horseface nodded. He picked up the immortal work Barrett, leapt out directly, and vanished into the darkness to find a sniping spot. Everything was ready. Li Che smiled. He took out the divine monkey mask and slowly placed it over his face. Chapter 404. Closed his eyes, then opened them again. Beneath the mask, his pupils shimmered with golden flames. The Lu blood shock spear, one of the 9 luminaries' divine spears, was grasped by him and shouldered. Under the mask, the corner of his lips slightly curled into a smile. With a light tap of his toes, he hopped gently on the spot. Chi and blood rosy clouds. As his toes touched down. In an instant. Boom! It was as if countless electromagnetic blood nets suddenly exploded around Li Che, forming a blood-colored domain within a radius of 3 yards. The domain compressed and accumulated under his feet, turning into a cloud of blood. It lifted Li Che's form. Transforming into a streak of flowing light, he soared into the sky. As if he could ascend directly into the high heavens. The divine beholds me. City Lord's mansion. It was quite serene and quiet. The room where young Prince Ji Hai was also calm and silent, with divine fluctuations occasionally spreading out, presumably from training his divinity. Xuetufu, with one arm, slung a saber, his eyes deep and introspective. He sat on the corridor chair, quite satisfied. The young prince hadn't dwelled on his momentary failure, had adjusted his mood, and had re-entered his training state so quickly. This naturally made Xuetufu quite gratified. Failure isn't frightening, but what is terrifying is falling into a deep pit created by failure and unable to climb out. That is true despair. However, if one can climb out of the pit, failure will only make you stronger. Mansion Lord Suhuai sat in a leisure pavilion, drinking tea and playing chess on the side. Even though the young prince had lost face at the mountain, Suhuai hadn't reacted rashly by leading people from the city lord's mansion to storm the Golden Light Peak. Although Suhuai really wanted to kill Nan Li was after all the sect master of the divine sect. If he were killed by him, the impact would be too great, and the divine sect might even stop opening the Temple God Resonance Conference at the third prince's mysterious temple. That would delay the young prince's important affairs. So, Suhuai had been waiting. Nan Li also knew this, and both understood each other without saying. Nan Li was seizing every opportunity to grow stronger. Looking for an opportunity to plot against Suhuai. Suhuai didn't mind, having enough powerful strength allowed him to easily handle any of Nan Li's conspiracies and tricks. Suddenly, just as Suhuai placed a white chess piece on the sandalwood board, his gaze slightly sharpened. A streak of flowing light, in an instant, whistled past the side of his cheek. The swirling wind even made his jet black hair flutter. It was a dragon tooth Bodhi bullet. In Suhuai's eyes, the high-speed spinning bullet, with its patterns looking as if they had frozen. This bullet. Whoosh! The bullet tore through the air with extremely high speed, passing Suhuai. Its target was not him, but young prince. Suhuai frowned. But in fact, the moment Suhuai sensed the dragon tooth Bodhi bullet, Xuetufu had already appeared before the dragon tooth Bodhi bullet, raising his arm, his fingers clenched like hooks. He actually caught the dragon tooth Bodhi bullet in his palm. The high-speed spinning dragon tooth Bodhi gradually came to a stop. And exploded with a bang, yet was completely suppressed by Xuetufu's vigorous blood and energy. Ridiculous to the extreme, Xuetufu said lightly. Opening his fingers, the dragon tooth Bodhi, now turned to gravel like debris, fell to the ground. He raised his head, his hair flying, his aged face filled with murderous intent. Dragon tooth Bodhi. Not a hunter from the hunting god pavilion, it's from the underworld's horse face. Mansion Lord Suhuai said gravely. He stood up, leaping into the courtyard, blocking the entrance to the young prince's room. But he was fast, and the 6 black-armored warriors from the King Ji Moli's forces moved faster. Already having drawn the horse-slaying sabers from their backs, their armors clanking, they solemnly guarded the gate. Suhuai caught a special glint in his eyes. As expected of the elite troops under the teacher's command, one of the 4 divisions of the black-armored guards, the Blood Guard. The elites of the Divine Guard army paled in comparison. Hard to imagine the grandeur and unparalleled presence of the black-armored guards when all 4 divisions were assembled. He wondered if he, Suhuai, would have a chance to be in charge of one of the black armored guards in his lifetime. What lowly creatures dare to assassinate the young prince? Shwetufo's voice boomed like thunder, instantly blowing up the clouds in the sky as if thunder had burst. The countless falling snowflakes were shattered into dust by the shockwave. He tapped with his toes. His figure had already catapulted into the air, several dozen meters high, his sparkling eyes sweeping around. Gaze sharp as a knife. Following the direction from which the dragon-tooth Bodhi came, he searched. Across 1,000-yard distance, he saw that figure with the immortal work Barrett, turning to start bouncing and escaping. A maggot-like thing. Seeing the horse face turn to escape after the missed shot, Shwetufo's eyes flashed with disdain and chill. Suspended in the air, his lone arm behind his back, his solitary sleeve fluttering in the wind. He fiercely tapped his toes. Suddenly, the air, like the water surface of a mirrored lake, undulated up and down, rippling. And Shwetufo's figure, with a strong wave of air exploding behind him, appeared like a white wave across the night. Tearing through the night, crossing 1,000-yard distance. As fast as a flash of lightning. Like thunder blasting across the earth. The sound of the rushing air within his body, like roaring rivers, all the surrounding currents of air, under an invisible force, exploded loudly, bursting open. Shwetufo's murderous intent surged, fiercely burning. He did not bother to hide it. Today, the anger at Golden Light Peak, at this very moment, seemed to be fully vented, taking this audacious rat that dared to sneak attack and assassinate the young prince as the object of his venting. The horse face of the underworld? Chapter 405. Shwetufo had heard of it but didn't take it seriously at all. Just a sleazy assassin hiding its head and showing its tail, although its methods were tricky and it could carry out powerful assassinations from great distances. But so what? In front of a great grandmaster. How different was it from a squirming maggot? The power of the dragon-tooth Bodhi was indeed impressive, with exceptional penetration power, causing even his great grandmaster palm to faintly feel a sting. But, that was it. It couldn't even penetrate his palm. And it thought of assassination? 1,000 zhang distance, for Shwetufu, who was bursting forth with all his power, was truly nothing. And as for the young prince, Shwetufu wasn't worried either. Although there were only 6 black armored blood guards, each one was of divine minister cultivation, grandmaster posterior realm strength, the top elite among the blood guards. With 6 working together, even a great grandmaster would be unable to break through their defenses in a short time. Moreover, as the favored little disciple of the prince, the protective resources of the young prince, how could they be only so much? On their journey, they had also suffered assassination attempts from the Grand Prospect Dynasty's top assassination organization, Hunting God Pavilion. This horse face. Compared to such assassination techniques, it was really nothing, a mere sorcerer dwarfed by a real wizard. Horseface was not strong in cultivation, and hadn't run far. Shwetufu had already arrived furiously, with terrifying chi and blood boiling and burning, causing the air temperature to rise several degrees. Surrender your life! Shwetufu coldly shouted. The immensely powerful Great Grandmaster's martial Dao will, like mountains crushing down, slammed down fiercely. Similar to Divinity's path, an incomparable rank oppression. The martial Dao will of a Great Grandmaster also had a similar effect, though a bit weaker than the pure rank oppression, not so absolute. If the person being suppressed had a resolute will, they could still resist. Horseface's body paused, then continued to run wildly under Shwetufu's martial Dao will. Shwetufu descended in an instant, his hand spread open, and it seemed like all the flows of air in the sky were grasped in his hand and furiously slapped down. Horseface's running movement suddenly froze. A dazzlingly brilliant blade light, violently swung out. The machete around the waist shot out. With a spurt, Horseface's head was sliced off. However, no blood sprayed out. Shwetufu's eyes narrowed. The dense black mist exploded, carrying a thick ink-like scent, making Shwetufu suddenly feel a strong sense of crisis. Not good. Shwetufu's heart was startled. Above his head, thunder and lightning roared. There was a terrifying and scorching aura, violently exploding and sweeping over. Shwetufu looked up sharply. Boom! But what he saw was a richly thick blood cloud, from high above, like a blood-colored thunderbolt falling into the human world, smashing down at extreme speed. Above the blood cloud was a refined figure wearing a divine monkey mask, both hands hanging over a crimson long spear that rested on its shoulders. Below the divine monkey mask, Someone laughed brazenly. Ascending the tower. Under the hat, black hair suddenly grew, as if coated with golden light, brilliantly splendid. Under the divine monkey mask, the eyes that were audacious and unbridled, at this moment, seemed like flames and golden light of a great sun rising. Divine monkey! Descending from the heavens. Yelling at my darling daughter? Dare to yell at Emperor XIXI. I'll freaking make you yell. Boom. Chi and blood rosy clouds exploded like a blood-red electromagnetic net. Then it turned into an enormous foot, following the divine monkey's raised foot. With the terrifying speed of thunder crashing into the human world. Bang! It stampeded down fiercely. Slamming down Xuetufu, who was looking up, his hair and beard plastered against the ground as if impaled by a stake. Driven straight into the ground like a wooden peg. Chapter 406. Boom! A colossal footprint, completely formed from rosy clouds, descended from the sky. As if a boot had been removed, revealing a bare foot with 5 toes that slammed down from the heavens. It was like thunder striking the human world. It forcefully drove Xuetufu, the master of divine gang who had achieved enlightenment of his martial Dao will, into the ground like a stake. Boom bang bang! The blue stone pavement of the Golden Light Mansion city suddenly exploded, sinking deeply, and the earth and stones within hundreds of meters all around burst and flew into the air. Where the giant footprint landed, a cloud of dust rose up like curtains encircling the area. A web of cracks spread out rapidly. Columns of steam rose from the fissures, hissing as if boiling water were screeching. The entire Golden Light Mansion city seemed to fall into a deadly silence at that moment. Originally, because of Xuetufu's angry shout, his voice thundered, the sound waves reverberating and awakening the entire Golden Light Mansion city in the dead of night. Many powerful beings were startled awake. Upon learning that Horseface of the underworld had chosen to assassinate young Prince Ji Haihui, everyone's scalp tingled. They're insane. The underworld has gone insane. That's young Prince Ji Haihui, the son of King of Quelling Chaos Ji Moli. Apart from the hunting god Pavilion, who would dare to assassinate him? But Horseface made its move. Using that mysterious and divine technique, it took a shot from 1,000 feet away. Regrettably, the previously infallible assassination technique failed this time. Because, beside young Prince Ji Haihui, there was a great Grand Master. Under the protection of the great Grand Master, the mysterious Horseface from the underworld ultimately failed in its assassination. Then, many saw Horseface's frantic escape. They saw Xuetufu, a great Grand Master, catch up in an instant and chop it down with a firewood cleaver. But nobody expected. After Horseface was chopped down, not a single drop of blood was spilled, only turning into black mist. It was fake. That was not Horseface. A false body. There were indeed many kinds of divine methods with deceptive illusions like the thoughtful willow wood body which Li Che once obtained from the Su family of Flying Thunder, which was a kind of divinity technique for creating a copy. The fake Horseface was a decoy. The idea surfaced in the minds of almost all the powerful beings. Immediately afterward, they saw a gigantic foot descending from the sky. Everyone was profoundly shocked, their bodies rigid as if frozen, feeling dry-mouthed. The divine ministers of the 4 great noble families, the illusory phase cultivators, and others all had tingling scalps. An unbelievable thought came to their minds. The Horseface was a lure. The true target of the underworld was the great Grand Master. Is that Divine Gang? Another great Grand Master? Watching the intertwining chi and blood rosy clouds form a substantial gigantic footprint, many were moved. Inside the city lord's mansion, Su Huili's expression was profoundly shaken. No, it doesn't seem. It doesn't resemble the divine gang of a great Grand Master, which can drive the forces of heaven and earth with the fusion of one's own chi blood and martial Dao will. Su Huili's eyes flickered, his primordial spirit spread out to sense, and his heart started pounding. The target of the underworld was not the young prince, but actually Great Grand Master Xuetufu. He had never expected this. The tightly closed room, its door opened. Young Prince Ji Haihui furrowed his brows and walked out in his splendid attire, the bruises on his face had faded significantly. Sensing the chi of the Grand Masters clashing, his eyes revealed a shock of amazement. The underworld. What kind of riffraff dares to bully the King of Quelling Chaos? Dare they emulate the hunting god Pavilion and attempt to assassinate me? Ji Haihui's expression grew solemn. Their target was the great Grand Master. But, if they were to succeed in killing the great Grand Master, he, Ji Haihui, would be in danger. The sensing of energy did not seem to be that of a great Grand Master, lacking that terrifying and dominant martial Dao will. Yet, they were able to trample a great Grand Master underfoot. Their strength was definitely not ordinary. Even if they were not great Grand Masters, they were undoubtedly top-notch experts. 6 black armored blood guards protected the young prince exceptionally well. They did not relax in the slightest because the attacker lying in ambush happened to be Great Grand Master Xuetufu. Blistering. Scorching. The temperature of the air suddenly soared, becoming unbearably hot, and an invisible qi and blood force seemed to affect the minds of everyone. The smoke and dust were ripped apart, swept away by the wave of energy. Everyone saw clearly now. Amid the howling of the air currents, they saw the sturdy figure floating in the air with a divine monkey mask, tilting its head sideways. He didn't possess the terrifying physique of an ox demon that towered like a mountain. Nor was he as slender as Horseface. Instead, he had a robustness, as though his muscles had been hammered and twisted into ropes. The underworld. Divine Monkey. Outside the city. Figures shot back, returning from investigating the annihilation of the gold split gate outside the city. Among them were Li Qingshan and Lin Qiu. The two stood transfixed from afar, dumbstruck. They had not expected that right after the Divine Monkey had destroyed the gold split gate, he would come looking for trouble with the great Grand Master. No, how could he dare trouble a great Grand Master? And in broad daylight? Why was he being so brazen? Lin Qiu took a deep breath, his eyes filled with envy and a look of having learned something, as if incredible knowledge was being crammed into his mind in an unconventional way. On the other hand, Li Qingshan was thumping his chest and stamping his feet in frustration. Ox Demon and Horseface teamed up with Divine Monkey to ambush a great Grand Master. Even if Li Qingshan himself were involved, he couldn't handle it. To ambush and kill a great Grand Master. A slight mistake and he feared he might get killed. And the moment the chi of a great Grand Master erupted and collided, the upper echelons of the entire Golden Light Prefecture became aware and reacted. Chapter 407. Temple Control Bureau. Governor Xiejing, who had just returned from the Third Prince's mysterious temple, furrowed his brows and suddenly appeared on the rooftop of a building within the courtyard of the Temple Control Bureau. He gazed into the distance with anticipation. Kintian Observatory. The chief supervisor sat atop the treasure tower, pulling the melancholic strings of an erhu amidst the falling snow. Liu Yao, standing with his hands behind his back, had a look of curiosity in his eyes. Atop Golden Light Peak, Nan Luo and Wang Kuya were also startled. Underworld Divine Monkey. Working in tandem with Horseface, using Horseface as bait, their target is actually Great Grand Master Xuetufu. Nan Luo's heart was deeply shaken, incredulous. The underworld had such formidable colleagues. Wang Kuya's figure floated, his Taoist robe flapping, his feather duster waving, bold indeed, but trying to kill a great Grand Master, with just this level of skill is far from enough. Wang Kuya shook his head. The ability of a great Grand Master to contend with a divine element true person was not just talk. Under the watchful eyes of various forces, Xuetufu, whose body was embedded into the earth by a giant bloody footprint as if plunged by planting, his face alternating between green and red, was furious to the extreme. Damn monkey! Seeking death! Xuetufu roared. Xuetufu, embedded into the ground by the Divine Monkey's pile-driving stomp, let out a long howl. In an instant, a terrifying martial Dao will, centered on his body, spread out forming an immensely strong field. Silver bright wines, slicing the surroundings, caused the already shattered ground to be sliced even more. Bang! Xuetufu clenched his fist with one arm and struck out fiercely, smashing against the huge footprint that had been formed by some unknown transformation by the Divine Monkey. The footprint was kicked into the air. Xuetufu's whole body vibrated, and he shot up from the ground. While in midair, an unbelievable transformation already occurred, as if releasing the hidden essence, qi, and spirit in a flash. His black hair billowed as though coated with a layer of silver light, and his eyes boiled with a killing intent. The slim one-armed figure suddenly expanded and became taut. The impeccable Great Grand Master's physique was fully displayed in that moment. From an old one-armed decrepit man, he instantly turned into a robust and upright middle-aged man with silver divine gang weaving around his body like lightning. Add latest chapters at free.novelo only. Almost condensing into a tangible armor-like form. The coarse linen cloth was strained and then split, revealing skin forged and cast like black iron waters. Giant tendons quivered, faintly showing the scalding hot red blood boiling within. Great Grand Master. Essence, chi, and spirit transformed into the human body treasure elixir, condensing within the body shell. Suppressed by the martial Dao will. Once unleashed in battle, its might would be tremendously fearsome, like a spring compressed to the extreme. Releasing the suppression would make it soar to the skies. The harder it is suppressed during normal days, the more exhilarating and freeing it will be when the shackles are removed and it bursts forth in battle. Bang bang bang! The surrounding rubble, already pulverized, exploded into even finer fragments, turning into countless dust and gravel flying around. Boom! Underneath the divine monkey mask, Li Chai's fiery eyes narrowed. His mind controlled the enormous foot formed from chi and blood rosy clouds, stamping down heavily again. Bang! However, this time, he failed to stomp Shwetufu into the ground. His single arm, filled with terrifying strength, was like several thick steel bars twisted into a braid, firmly withstanding the foot that descended from the sky. Great Grand Master! Li Chai murmured. Then, the corners of his mouth crazily lifted up. So powerful! The heavily pressed foot instantly transformed into a side kick, like kicking a football, the back of his foot fiercely smashing into Shwetufu's body. Shwetufu's body became unstable, immediately being kicked and blasted out, spinning rapidly in the air. But with a flip, Shwetufu's legs heavily stomped on the ground, Divine Gang burst forth sweeping around, propelling his body to shoot up. The seemingly ordinary cleaver in his hand shone with countless silver patterns. The handle elongated, the blade thickened, became heavier, and wider. The force became heavier. It seemed as if it had transformed into a crescent blade weighing over 1,000 pounds. With one arm clutching, a flicker of the blade, and the gleam of the blade resoundingly announced its presence, densely sweeping across the night sky. The will of martial Dao merged with the Divine Gang, forming a terrifying domain within a 10-yard radius around him. Like a stream of light, he quickly charged towards the hovering Divine Monkey. So powerful! Li Chai felt a suffocating sensation permeating the air. That was the grandeur of a great Grand Master. If it had been before his transformation, just the grandeur of the great Grand Master alone would have been enough to deeply unsettle him. But now, Li Chai's forehead glimmered slightly. Chess Saint's Dao fruit throbbed within the heaven and earth chessboard. The divine senses version of Li Chai flicked his finger, consecutively shattering 9 spirit monkey temple god divinities. The surging temple god divinity instantly flooded into his limbs and bones, abundantly powering his ascending the tower state. Bang! The hat on his head instantly blasted apart, his hair dyed golden as if a golden cape waved unceasingly in the wind. The 9 luminaries' divine weapon blood shock spear, originally slung around his neck, suddenly shot upward like a crimson bolt of lightning. A portion of the chi and blood rosy clouds separated out, entwining around the shocking spear. It wrapped the shocking spear into a crimson long staff, and significantly elevated its quality. With a tap of his foot, divine skills and chi and blood rosy clouds instantly transformed into a cloud of blood, dragging his body as it streaked out at high speed. In a buzzing hum, it cleaved through the sky. Like a crimson meteor, boldly crashing towards Shwetufu. This is the power of a temple god. Shwetufu, now young and robust, scoffed coldly. So it turns out to be a rat who borrowed the power of a temple god. No wonder he dares to challenge a great Grand Master without being one himself. Chapter 408. But even if you harness the power of the temple god, what of it? If you are not a great Grand Master, you simply have no idea how vast the gap is between you and a great Grand Master. A great Grand Master possesses a flawless body, with the 5 viscera and 6 bowels refined to perfection, peerlessly unmatched both internally and externally. However, before Shwetufu could finish his words, the divine monkey had already appeared before him, stepping on clouds of blood, with the blood-colored long spear writhing like a blood jiaishe. With a flick, countless spear shadows overlapped like stick shadows, spreading like a peacock's plumes. 1,000 stick shadows, heavy upon heavy. Countless air currents exploded. Are you fucking related to Santang with all this bullshit you spout? It's annoying as hell. Primordial equal to heaven staff. Martial Saint ultimate study. The stick shadows churned like the Tianhe pouring down from the heavens. Striking from above. Seeking death. Shwetufu's eyes turned cold, as killing intent surged, transforming into a crescent blade divine weapon that he swung. Martial Dao will and divine gang erupted at that moment. Countless divine gang intertwined, tearing through the air, turning into hundreds of sword lights swooping down towards the divine monkey. Each strand of divine gang sword light possessed the formidable strength to cut down a martial artist in the latter stages of the Grand Master realm. Clang! As the sword light neared, the piercing sound of swords cleaving mountains and splitting clouds boomed throughout heaven and earth. Countless stick shadows shattered as if obliterated by the overwhelming sword light. The dense mesh of divine gang sword light relentlessly advanced to cover the divine monkey, intending to flay him with 1,000 cuts. The sword light cut swiftly, causing the air to seem as though it boiled, emitting a pained whine under the unbearable burden. Great Grand Master Ultimate Study. Desert Lone Smoke Blade. A lonely, overpowering blade intent burst forth amidst the sword lights. Once a master's ultimate study has been cultivated to the transformation realm, stepping into the Great Grand Master afterwards can transform it into a Great Grand Master ultimate study. Its might undergoes a metamorphosis and soars. In reality, there is no essential difference between a master's ultimate study and a Great Grand Master ultimate study. But the martial saint ultimate study greatly differs from both. As a Great Grand Master under G. Moli's command, Shwetufu naturally practiced the martial saint ultimate study. However, he was not adept, having only recently achieved divine gang and just begun to study the martial saint ultimate study, barely reaching a minor accomplishment. Therefore, the Great Grand Master ultimate study was his strongest suit. Bang! Countless chi and blood rosy clouds steamed up, flicking and colliding with Shwetufu's divine gang sword light. It actually devoured these sword gang one after the other. The divine monkey swung his long staff, boldly striking out. Primordial equal to heaven staff. Now that Li Che had achieved a second transformation with the dragon elephant Vajradeo fruit, blessed with an epiphany of fortune, he had reached the standard of major accomplishment. Although it was a flawed martial saint ultimate study, abstruse and difficult to cultivate, once mastered, its might was extremely terrifying. Sword and stick collided. Dang, dang, dang! The explosive sound, like thunder, echoed through Golden Light Prefecture City. The air, as if it were calm water disturbed, lost its tranquility, continually spiraling up and scattering in ripples of Gangchi winds. The entire street was in the throes of wild winds, as the air rushed and howled furiously. Some divine cultivators nearby even felt their divinity struggling to emerge, suppressed to the point that breathing was difficult. A battle of great Grand Masters. A genuine, Great Grand Master level fight, indeed. Shwetufu brandished his crescent blade with his one arm, like a towering column of lone smoke rising in the vast desert. The fervent chi and blood, boiling and interweaving, the clash of stick shadows and blade light spread over the ground, raising dust and debris over the already devastated cobblestone floor, like the grand curtain of a theater. Stick shadows. Blade light. Gang chi. Rosy clouds. For a moment, night seemed to turn into day, the terrifying chi and blood boiling and rising, causing the temperature to soar, with snowflakes drifting from the sky, melting into rainwater, ushering in a sudden winter rain. But the falling winter rain hadn't even approached within 100 yards of where the two were clashing, before it was turned into steam. Inside Golden Light Prefecture City, the many onlookers were dazzled, their minds shaken to the core. The air churned everywhere, with howling gang chi and blade light, chi and blood rosy clouds continually intertwining, assaulting everyone's eyes. Amidst the whirling blade light, the underworld divine monkey, holding a blood-colored staff, thrust out countless stick shadows, like blooming flowers, exploding all around him. He firmly blocked the crescent blade light of Shwetufu, a great Grand Master. Liu Yao and Wang Kuyu, the two divine primordial true persons, were profoundly shocked. Enveloping heaven and earth with their powerful primordial spirits, they felt sheer astonishment. Because they discovered that the monkey's cultivation had not yet reached Great Grand Master. It was just Grand Master's latter realm. Yet the strength of his physical body was so formidable, uncannily beyond mortal limits, with immense, overbearing power, every stick shadow he slammed down seemed to wield a natural divine force, breaking through a major boundary and shattering the crescent blade light of Shwetufu. Liu Yao was deeply moved, horizontal refinement unparalleled. Naturally iron-boned and steel-sinewed. Such individuals, he had only encountered in Dao City, and they were the sort who pursued only the martial path, without cultivating divinity, pure martial artists. Only by dedicating all their heart and soul to chasing the extremes of the martial Dao, without being distracted by divinity, could one walk such a path and achieve a body capable of horizontal refinement unparalleled. Yet, in the divine monkey, Liu Yao clearly sensed the power of divinity. Not to mention the ever-changing chi and blood rosy clouds, just the temple god divinity burning and releasing from the monkey's body. That is divinity. The origins of the underworld are extraordinary. Where did this divine monkey spring out from? To be able to temper such a physically mighty body at the Grand Master realm, there are few even within the entire Lingnan circuit. Liu Yao furrowed his brows. As a deputy inspector of the Dao City Imperial Heavenly Observatory, he was well informed and had a strong memory. But at this moment, even he was somewhat puzzled by the monkey's origins. It seemed as if he really did spring from a stone. Chapter 409. The divine monkey's eyes shone brightly, its staff sweeping across with the primordial equal to heaven staff's major accomplishment of the martial saint ultimate study, executed to a state of spiritual transcendence. As all 9 temple god divinities were simultaneously stimulated, Li Che felt an even greater surge of power coursing through his body. His divine power even reached the level of an elemental appearance. Moreover, because he was the essence of the temple god divinity, at the temple god rank, he was unbeatable amongst his equals. Unless his opponent was also a temple god. So, on the level of divinity, Li Che was suppressing Xuetufu. Great Grand Master, indeed strong. If it were just my transformed body, it would probably be a 50-50 split with him, wanting to kill him, beat him until his nose is blue and face swollen, very difficult. Not enough. Underneath the divine monkey mask, Li Che shook his head. Clang. After a collision, the divine monkey stepped on a blood cloud, swiftly pulling back, while Xuetufu, too, held the crescent blade with one arm, creating distance, his powerful grandmaster's physique covered in sweat beads as large as beans. This bout of fighting was not easy for Xuetufu either, and he sweated profusely. How is this possible? Xuetufu gritted his teeth, shock surging in his eyes. This divine monkey, clearly not having reached the realm of a great grandmaster, but relying on his powerful horizontally refined body, he withstood his great grandmaster's chi and blood power. This was truly exaggerated. Of course, the temple god divinity also exerted pressure on him in the way of divinity. But he was, after all, a true great grandmaster. Kill. Xuetufu naturally could not tolerate this outcome. At this moment, under the public eye, he was in too deep to back out. If he couldn't defeat his opponent, his great grandmaster Martial Dao will would likely not be thorough, suffering a great setback in deterring Golden Light Prefecture City. Xuetufu violently took a step forward. Numerous veins popped out on his neck like jiao dragons, his complexion turned blood red, his internal chi and blood boiling to the extreme, as if all the blood vessels beneath his skin burst open. He pushed his divine gang to its limits. The extreme of the great grandmaster's ultimate study, the power of the transformation realm. In the next instant, it was as if sandy winds howled, and a vision of a desolate great desert with a lone plume of smoke enveloped him, creating a domain-like effect, seeking to envelop the divine monkey within. A domain. That was the absolute killing force of a great grandmaster. This strike carried a firm will and belief that it must kill. It was almost like tangible fire that burned fiercely. This was firing up the battle spirit. With the divine monkey mask on his face, Li Che activated ascending the tower, stimulating the temple god divinity. Holding the 9 luminaries' divine soldier's blood-shocking spear cloaked in the chi and blood rosy clouds. The flames dancing in his eyes twinkled slightly. That terrifying domain seemed like it could tear everything apart. Great Grandmaster, truly strong. Fortunately, Xuetufu's divine cultivation had not stepped into the realm of the divine element true person. Otherwise, with the great Grandmaster plus divine element true person cultivation, Li Che would have had no chance to beat, let alone kill Xuetufu. But now, underneath the divine monkey mask, Li Che sighed. It's a pity. A sigh echoed, abrupt and resonant. With muscles in one arm swelling and blue veins undulating like a jiao dragon, Xuetufu, wielding his crescent blade and rushing forward to kill, suddenly tensed up. An incredibly strong sense of crisis overwhelmed him. In that instant, it enveloped him entirely. Yet before his eyes, the divine monkey suddenly burst out with innumerable splendid golden lights. A dark golden chess piece floated in front of the divine monkey. And he crushed it with ferocity. Boom! In that moment, the earth cracked open and the cobblestones shattered into pieces. Below the feet of the divine monkey, the ground within several jong around him seemed to collapse deeply in an instant, plunging over 100 feet. Golden! An extremely brilliant gold. It was as if a dazzling golden armor had covered the divine monkey's entire body. Temple God Divinity chess piece of the Golden Heavenly King. If the monkey and his offspring are not enough, then let the Golden Heavenly King come forth. Under the transformation of the second transformation of the Dao fruit, Li Chai's flesh had undergone a metamorphosis. He felt he could attempt to withstand the full force of an entire Golden Heavenly King chess piece now. Pew pew pew. Flesh split open in several places, spraying mists of blood. But Li Chai's spirit soared step by step amongst the chi and blood rosy clouds. With the stomp of his foot, the golden armor, along with the flying strands of gold-tinted hair that looked like a golden cape, made him appear like a golden divine general standing atop celestial clouds. Hum! A humming sound. The fiery red divine staff was fiercely thrust into the cobblestone ground, immovable in its might. As the golden divine monkey descended, he stamped his foot. A long spear shrouded in chi and blood rosy clouds was bent to its limit. It was as if a divine archer was drawing about to shoot an arrow. Bang! The sound of explosion thundered. However, as the divine spear snapped back, the golden divine monkey seemed to have smashed into space itself, disappearing without a trace between heaven and earth. Not even the primordial spirit could sense anything. This is bad. Shwetufu's hairs stood on end. It wasn't disappearance, but speed that was so fast, it exceeded perception. Beyond the capture range of sight. Bang! Numerous air waves shattered, and the domain formed by the intermingling of the martial Dao will and divine gang of the great Grand Master was sliced open as smoothly as a hot knife through butter. The golden divine monkey appeared right before Shwetufu. The oppressive might of the temple god rank was so terrifying that Shwetufu didn't even have the energy to stir his divine power. Golden eyes burned with gold smoke, as if fragrant incense were pouring down heavily. With a clench of his 5 fingers, the endless surging air currents seemed to be crushed to pieces in an instant. In this moment, Li Chai did not use the martial saint ultimate study, the Qi Tian stick. Instead, with sinews harmonizing and flesh burning, dragon sinews and elephant bones trembled. His fingers clenched into a fist. Like a mighty elephant flinging its trunk, he hurled it fiercely. In the split second of the arm trembling and whipping forward, countless winds of gang, divinity, streams of Qi, and martial Dao will before the golden divine monkey, were all blown apart. As if transforming the area into a vacuum. Chapter 410. Shwetufu, holding the crescent blade with one hand, seemed to be in a daze as if he saw a mythical dragon lashing its tail and an ancient giant elephant lifting its trunk. Vast, boundless, unrivaled. Such boxing technique! Such boxing technique! It was the most fitting for the divine monkey, as if it were created for the divine monkey. What is this? Your own martial saint ultimate study? What kind of monster? Shwetufu snapped back to reality with shock and horror, but as his mind contracted, he discovered that the golden divine monkey's arm, swinging like a primate, was already upon his face. Too late, to swing the blade, too late. The crescent blade was powerful and heavy, its swinging speed naturally much slower. He couldn't keep up. He couldn't keep up with the dead monkey that had taken on a different form of temple god divinity. 6 bureaus. This temple god divinity was of the 6 offices level. Madman! Aren't you afraid of being completely eroded by the 6 bureaus temple god and becoming a temple guardian cursed corpse? Even if this dead monkey has an unparalleled physique, how can it withstand the power of the 6 bureaus temple god divinity? But at this moment, what struck Shwetufu's mind was that terrifying, whipping punch. The hand gripping the crescent blade suddenly released its hold. The suddenly lightened arm fiercely moved to defend, blocking a cross with a horizontal arm. Boom! The punch struck the arm. Shwetufu's great grandmaster level Vajra physique seemed, at that moment, to make the sound of iron being crushed by a dragon elephant. Then, the terrifying surge of air engulfed everything in an instant. Shwetufu's remaining arm exploded, flesh and blood flew, and bones were smashed. And the golden divine monkey, relentless, followed punch after punch. The arms vibrated, and within the boxing technique, various ultimate studies were contained. Blooming like 100 flowers, dazzling to the eyes. Shwetufu's arm was smashed by 7 consecutive punches. Finally, it burst into pieces. And the moment Shwetufu's arm was blown apart, his fist-clenched hand suddenly opened all fingers, the air whistling as it transformed into an open palm. Take that for your foul mouth! With a smack, a slap landed firmly on Shwetufu's cheek. Shwetufu was stunned. Spurt! A figure with both arms dangling, flew dozens of yards backward amidst a cloud of blood mist, howling in rage. Ultimately crashing hard onto the street. Smashing the ground into a deep crater, as if a small meteor had struck, countless small stones shot out like bullets in every direction. Amidst the rolling dust and smoke, Shwetufu's half-swollen and bleeding face, his eyes near bursting, his body enveloped in a blood mist, was uncontrollably furious. Damn it! He had not only been slapped. His Kyunkan jade was also gone. This damned monkey, while pummeling and slapping him, had casually stolen his Kyunkan jade. Damn monkey! Moreover, Shwetufu still hadn't figured out. Why? Why did the divine monkey want to kill a great grandmaster like him? He, Shwetufu, had he ever provoked this monkey? Perhaps he could never imagine that the monkey wanted to beat him to death. Simply because he yelled at a little girl 3 times at the summit of Golden Light Peak. An incident so trivial that his great-grandmaster memory could hardly recall. And this great battle was just a father venting his anger because his daughter had been wronged. You dare yell at my daughter? Even if you're a great-grandmaster. It's still bashing you to pieces. Spurch! From inside the deep pit, Shwetufu, with furious and miserable eyes, roared. He had been beaten by a monkey. And robbed by a monkey. Then a traumatic shock shook his martial Dao will from the depths of his eyes. His other arm had been smashed to pieces. Arm gone. He had no arms left. He would die. He might die. Chapter 411. I might die. How could I possibly die? Shwetufu's eyes were filled with blood vessels, and his originally shaken martial Dao will suddenly became tenacious, unbreakable. The threat of death certainly existed. But a great martial arts master should not waver in the face of a little danger, should he? Shwetufu felt that he had lived too comfortably during this period. He had lost his familiarity and perception of danger. Countless silver gang chi tore through the air, stirring the currents violently as Shwetufu's dark hair flew about. The gang chi continuously converged at the gaps where his arms had been. It was as though bones, meridians, and blood were forming. In fact, at the gaps where Shwetufu's arms had been missing, 2 completely new arms seemed to be growing stubbornly. Gang Chi condensed true arm. Although his arm had been blown apart by the divine monkey's blows, Shwetufu, as a great martial arts master, was not without means of recourse. Half of Shwetufu's face was swollen, his appearance somewhat hideous. A great martial arts master, being beaten down by a monkey like this, slapped in the face, could he stand it? He could not just stand it. He must kill this monkey. Shwetufu roared. Within his dantian, the great bodily elixir seemed to compress violently before erupting mightily, terrifying gang chi spurting out from his pores. His body's gang chi seemed to be dyed red, becoming frenzied and irritable, a way of fighting where a chi and blood martial path great master burns life to the limit. Blood ignition secret technique. It made the gang chi even more violent, the martial Dao will even more formidable. Boom! In the midst of the entire ruins and crater, countless blood-colored gang chi wrapped around Shwetufu, resembling 3 or 4 parts of the chi and blood rosy clouds swirling around the divine monkey. Shwetufu raised his head, his hair violently swirling within the deep pit, his twisted face full of a chilling and lingering killing intent. Disgrace! Only blood could repay it. Silence! The entire Golden Light Prefecture city had fallen into quietness. All the cultivators watching the battle were immensely shaken. No one had expected that the underworld divine monkey's combat power would be so terrifying, with one trump card after another. To have even transformed into the fearsome golden divine monkey. And to have forcefully blown apart the arm of Shwetufu, a great martial arts master who fought under the banner of King of Quelling Chaos G Moli. Although Shwetufu was not among the named masters under King Pingluan's command. And was only a newly promoted master of divine gang. He was after all a bona fide great grand master, his martial Dao will condensing, almost capable of using its divine to influence the environment. This divine refers to the martial Dao will of a great grand master. Martial Dao's intent, man can conquer heaven. In the distance, Liu Yao and Wang Kuyu, 2 divine primordial true persons, had sparkling eyes. Liu Yao was doing all right, his sheer strength was above Shwetufu's, confident that he could suppress Shwetufu, after all, he was just a newly ascended great grand master. Although great Grand Masters could be considered comparable to divine primordial true persons, at an equal level, divine primordial true persons were still slightly stronger. The only chance for a great Grand Master was to close the distance to a divine primordial true person with the swift momentum of lightning, taking them by surprise. Only then did they have a chance to win. Liu Yao was amazed at the endless techniques of the underworld divine monkey. Not just a great Grand Master, but capable of suppressing a great Grand Master, even with the potential to kill. Liu Yao's eyes shimmered. And that last one, the golden divine monkey? Why does it seem so familiar? Liu Yao couldn't help but murmur to himself. It wasn't just Liu Yao, even Nan Luo, who was watching the battle, couldn't stop his face from twitching, his silvery hair flying in the night wind. At this moment, he looked as though he'd seen a ghost. That sense of familiarity was too strong. Is that the Golden Heavenly King? It resembles the power of the Temple God from the Golden Temple, the Golden Heavenly King Temple God. Nan Luo spent his days within the Divine Palace, worshipping the Seven Treasures Relic Ruyi Golden Tower Temple God, also known as the Heavenly King Tower. As for the power of the Golden Heavenly King, he was extremely familiar with it. Heavenly King Temple God? Has this underworld divine monkey come into contact with the Golden Heavenly King Temple God? Nan Luo took a deep breath and exclaimed in astonishment. To make contact with the Golden Heavenly King, one could only have a chance in 3 Heavenly King Towers. One of those towers was in Golden Light Prefecture City. Nan Luo was certain that this monkey had no chance of touching the Heavenly King Tower in Golden Light Prefecture. First of all, rule out that this monkey had touched the Golden Light Prefecture's Heavenly King Tower. Then, what remained was the second Heavenly King Tower inside the gate of the Qianyuan Divine Sect Mountain. And the one in the Divine Capital. The Heavenly King Tower of the Divine Sect, with 3 great elders stationed there, this monkey, likewise couldn't possibly have come into contact with the Divine Sect's Heavenly King Tower, Wang Kuyu stated with utter certainty. As one of the Qianyuan Divine Sect's 3 main pillars of strength, the Heavenly King Tower was naturally guarded very strictly. So, this underworld divine monkey, could it be from the Divine Capital? Liu Yao pondered. The Divine Capital. The 8-armed prison Lotus Furious Third Prince. Had they attracted the attention of the experts from the Divine Capital already? The Divine Capital was not short of 4 imperial mysterious temples. All that can be said is, this underworld's origins are extraordinary, perhaps different from a local small force as we had imagined. But rather a large force that spans from the Divine Capital to the local regions, Wang Kuyu said calmly as he flicked his duster. Yet it's also strange, why has there been no word of such a power before? Liu Yao spoke gravely, not only that. The staff technique employed by this underworld divine monkey, don't you find it familiar? It is the heritage from the Equal Heaven Temple's unparalleled martial saint ultimate study, the primordial chaos heaven matching staff. There are rubbings in the Kintian Observatory, but this ultimate study is already incomplete. Although it's a martial saint ultimate study, barely anyone practices it, and very few can master it. Chapter 412. This divine monkey can actually cultivate. Could it be that the divine monkey is also related to the Equal Heaven Temple? The underworld. Could it really come from that once magnificent Equal Heaven Temple that overshadowed the world? Liu Yao took a deep breath and said solemnly. As the deputy inspector of the Dao City Imperial Heavenly Observatory. His vision was exceptional, and his words, once spoken, shocked everyone like thunder falling from the sky. Equal Heaven Temple? How? How could this be? Wang Kuyu was utterly astonished. Liu Yao shook his head. Of course, it's still too early to draw conclusions now. The underworld is engaged in the same assassination operations as the Hunting God Pavilion. If the Hunting God Pavilion knew about this, the underworld would be in fear. Hearing this, Nan Luo's eyes flickered. The underworld. Equal Heaven Temple. The appearance of a divine monkey completely washed away people's perceptions of the underworld. The underworld is likely to become famous. On the long street, dust swirled. A red divine staff was stuck in the ground, and the divine monkey perched deftly on it, standing stably. The golden light was dazzling. Li Che, wearing the divine monkey mask, could even hear his own breathing beneath the mask. So powerful! He had just crushed the temple god divinity chess piece of the Heavenly King Temple with all his might. His body now, barely holding on, he could feel, beneath his black robe, flesh unable to withstand the strain and bursting open to ooze blood. But, at least, he endured it. He endured a divine chess piece from the Heavenly King Temple. Unleashed its power. That was enough. He casually tossed Shwetufu's Kyunkan jade and placed it into the Kyunkan space, feeling elated. He had snatched it casually while continuously thrashing Shwetufu. Li Che initially had no such intention. But, his hand seemed to have a mind of its own. Well, consider it an early loot from the corpse. Nothing wrong with that. Shwetufu's eyes were bloodshot as he watched the divine monkey boldly take away his Kyunkan jade. His heart was bleeding. This was the ultimate humiliation. Slapping his face and taking his treasure. This feud could not be resolved under the same sky. A long howl. Arms composed of silver gang suddenly spread open, erupting with divine firmament chi like a volcano. With a grasp of his fingers, the crescent blade stuck in the distant ground trembled and rocketed back, suddenly clutched back in his hand. His resolute will burned the void. His martial Dao will seemed to swell and burst, somewhat distorted and crazy. With the deployment of the blood ignition secret technique, Shwetufu's combat power soared directly. Even if this monkey possessed a hint of the golden heavenly king's power, so what? Come on! Die, monkey! Shwetufu howled. Blood-colored chi lashed around the earth, instantly exploding the ground into fragments, constantly stirring and rising, dust flying. His own body was also continuously spraying out blood, the blood ignition secret technique, the ultimate sublimation of a great grandmaster's martial Dao will. The crescent blade danced as light as nothing, like a mad demon. Burning blood, fighting spirit, killing intent. All unleashed. Divine monkey, meet your death. Boom. Driven mad by the killing intent, Kyunkan jade was stolen, an arm was shattered, a face was smashed brutally and other such humiliations. Shwetufu, like a war god, his blood-colored gang chi roiled wildly, he executed the great grandmaster's ultimate moves to perfection, solitary smoke in the desert, a setting sun over the long river. The blood-colored blade light resembled a twisted and endless stretch of desert sand and a solitary, falling red sun within the world. Li Che felt the overwhelming and peerless power of Shwetufu at that moment. He was slightly startled in his heart. Under the madness of a great grandmaster, risking his life. He indeed was terrifyingly strong. If they were to clash head-on, even with the aid of a golden heavenly king divine chess piece, there was likely a risk of serious injury. To exchange life for life? He, Li Che, at 23, possessed superlative divine skills and 5 Dao fruits, with unparalleled talent and a promising future ahead. Would he exchange life for life with you, an old man who lost 2 arms? Anyway, you yelled at my daughter. I've let out my anger. I've beaten you and even slapped your face. You gave the compensation cleanly. Given that, only a fool would trade lives with you. Although wearing the divine monkey mask made Li Che's temperament become bold and brash. He was not foolish. Not only that. Within his chest, the chess Saint Dao fruit vibrated wildly with warnings, letting Li Che understand that besides the crazed, blood-ignited Shwetufu, there was even greater danger. He. Beneath the divine monkey mask, Li Che chuckled softly. The next moment, chi and blood-rosy clouds steamed up, pulling out the Lu blood shock spear that was embedded in the earth, and then he soared into the sky. With a flick and a clutch of his 5 fingers. In the midst of Shwetufu's powerful and restless martial Dao will's perception, the divine monkey just like that disappeared. Vanished. Disappeared into thin air. Boom. The crescent blade fiercely chopped down, cracking open 100 jong long fissure on the long street. Shwetufu, with his hair standing wild, continuously pounded the air with his gang chi formed arms. Ah! Damn monkey! Son of a bitch! A scourge, indeed! Clutching the crescent blade, Shwetufu kept hammering the ground. He was infuriated. Ah! He was driven to fury. He had activated the blood ignition secret technique. Even at the risk of damaging his yuan chi and great bodily elixir, he wanted to gamble with his life. But that damn monkey ran away. Damn, it really ran away. It felt like all his enthusiasm was fed to the dogs. Frustrated, painful. Shwetufu was so enraged that his entire being twisted, his whole body's vitality couldn't be released and could only angrily smash the long street. Ultimately, his gang chi formed arms, clutching the crescent blade, exploded with a bang, scattering pieces all around, slicing the ground with profound blade marks. Shwetufu's body staggered and trembled. He spat out a thick clump of blood. Damn, it was suffocating to death. A figure, as if fused into Shwetufu's shadow, abruptly appeared, a palm resting against Shwetufu's back. Chapter 413. Shwetufu's restless chi and blood slowly returned to calm, and the frenzy of his martial Dao will cooled and quieted down, but an unprecedented emptiness washed over his mind and spirit. Thank you. Shwetufu exhaled, cleansing the blood from his lips and teeth, and said. The main goal is to protect the young prince. A faint voice emanated from the shadowy figure. Just now, I had intended to make a move and help you kill that monkey, but just as I was about to act, the monkey seemed to sense something and fled. To kill this monkey, we must deploy a divine secret technique that seals the void. The shadow said matter-of-factly. Shwetufu was startled, his face trembling incessantly. The shadow merged back into the darkness and vanished from sight. Shwetufu knew he had returned to the young prince's side. Feeling the pacified gang chi within his body, the great bodily elixir, which could have been severely damaged due to the blood ignition secret technique, had also recovered a substantial amount of the injury. But still, he was so frustrated. Damn monkey! Netherworld! Murderous intent roiled in Shwetufu's eyes. As the shadow had said, to kill the monkey, preparations of a divine secret technique capable of sealing space were necessary. Otherwise, it would be difficult to kill. Those in the netherworld, such as the ox demon, horse face, and divine monkey, it seemed they all possessed this space-transferring secret technique. Similar to the corpse god cult's space-time corpse technique. But if there is a next time, he definitely would kill the monkey. That is. Liu Yao's eyes narrowed, his primordial spirit vibrated, and divinity spread uncontrollably throughout his body. That shadow that appeared behind Shwetufu. Divine element true person. One divine element true person, one master of chi and blood. Jimoli truly dotes on this little son, granting such a strong protective entourage. It's far from weak. Liu Yao's voice was grave. Nan Luo's heart suddenly sank. This shadow. I wonder what it's all about. Liu Yao's eyes flickered, it must be one of the black armored guards shadow guards under Jimoli. Shadow guard? Nan Luo took a deep breath. The most mysterious shadow guard among Jimoli's black armored guards. Tricky and tough. But fortunately, when he had paid homage to the mountain, this shadow guard, the divine element true person, had not taken action. The purpose of the shadow guard is to protect Ji Haihui, the young prince, in secret. He won't easily act unless there is a threat to the young prince's life. If he doesn't reveal himself, we really couldn't have detected him. Wang Kuya shook his head and said. Liu Yao exhaled a breath. No wonder. The young prince Ji Haihui could remain unharmed despite assassination attempts by the hunting god pavilion's assassins. It must have been the deeds of this shadow guard expert hidden in the darkness. Mansion City, Falling Flower Alley. Within the small courtyard, the suddenly exploding chi and blood rosy clouds were like a net capturing a red electromagnetic field. Li Che, wearing the divine monkey mask, appeared out of nowhere. In his palm, he crushed a thunder chess piece. And teleported back home. Li Che, sitting on the ground, gasped for air. The golden heavenly king divinity chess piece had already faded. His body felt like it couldn't bear the burden, and the emotions of extreme frustration and resentment that had surged in him after his second transformation of the Dao fruit rapidly dissipated. All that left was emptiness. The dragon elephant Vajra Dao fruit pulsated. It was rapidly healing the wounds on Li Che's body that had come from overloading while bearing the golden heavenly king temple divine chess piece. Not only was Li Che's body strong, but with the help of the Dao fruit, his recovery also far exceeded that of an ordinary person. Removing the divine monkey mask, Li Che took a deep breath. There are still more experts. The chess saint's Dao fruit warning, that threat, it was even greater than that of Shwetufu, this chi and blood great grandmaster. A divine element true person hidden in the shadows. Li Che's eyes flickered. When Shwetufu came to fight him to the death, the chess saint's Dao fruit's swift warning made Li Che realize that in addition to the threat of death brought by the great grandmaster fighting to the death, there was another threat impacting him. Therefore, Li Che didn't hesitate to retreat, having struck at Shwetufu, venting all the anger he needed to vent, and having claimed the compensation he was owed. Li Che gladly took his leave. Now, if I don't have a temple god divinity chess piece, even facing a common great grandmaster would be tough, not even a 50-50 chance, actually, more like 20-80. But with the temple god divinity, it could greatly increase my chances of winning. With the 6 bureaus level of the Golden Heavenly King Temple Divinity, once I fully adapt and my body can fully bear it, unleashing its full power, I should be able to kill someone like Shwetufu, who is in the initial realm of the Master of Divine Gang. Great Grandmasters also have their strengths and weaknesses. Having just touched this realm, Li Che hadn't gone into detail to understand it. However, there is also a distinction within the realm of the Great Grandmasters. Most notably, there's a stark difference between those who have cultivated the Shen Yuan Golden Elixir and those who have not. It's like two different realms. Against a Great Grandmaster of Shen Yuan Golden Elixir level, probably only those who have practiced the Martial Saint Ultimate Study's true intent and refined their internal organs and orifices to break through can contend in battle. Li Che sat on the ground, his body boiling, and the steaming chi waves caused all the winter rain falling from the sky to evaporate. This winter rain was a consequence of a master-level battle. The falling snow was scattered and melted, turning into heavy rain. The Heavenly King Divinity is only of the 6 bureaus level, and my body is already struggling a bit to withstand it. If it were the 5 elders, or even the 4 imperials. Li Che's eyes flickered. He finally understood the importance of having a strong body. That's why it is said in divine cultivation, the strength of the flesh must keep up. The battle with the Golden Heavenly King Divinity chess piece has exhausted it. I wonder when I'll be able to enter the Golden Heavenly King Divine Temple again. Li Che furrowed his brows. I wonder if the Heavenly King's anger has subsided yet. Without the Heavenly King's divinity chess piece, Li Che felt completely insecure. The Heavenly King gave him a strong sense of security. Chapter 414. Li Che couldn't help but want more. Wait for another 2 days, when my condition has fully recovered, I'll make another trip to the Golden Divine Temple. I hope the Golden Heavenly King will welcome me, otherwise I'll just have to hitch a ride with XIXI. Li Che muttered to himself. Then he slowly closed his eyes, beginning to review the extremely valuable battle he had just had with the Great Grandmaster. In his mind, the scene replayed vividly. He closely watched Shwetufu's techniques, learning some martial arts skills from the fight with the Great Grandmaster. Li Che's Qi and Blood martial path training had no teacher. Therefore, every opponent was his best teacher. Each review was an excellent opportunity to enhance his combat awareness, combat skills, and martial temperament. A moment later, the review ended, and Li Che suddenly opened his eyes. A dazzling light seemed to sweep swiftly across the depths of his eyes. The next moment, he sprang up from the ground. His 5 fingers grasped the Lu blood shock spear that was enveloped in Qi and blood rosy clouds and had transformed into a long staff. With a flick and a shake, the air currents exploded, and the air itself was smashed into deep pits, with countless shadows of the staff intertwining heavily. Primordial equal to heaven staff. Li Che seemed to be struck by inspiration, and with the help of his strong martial understanding, the Martial Saint Ultimate Study, which he had just reached the major accomplishment level in, was now firmly under his control. He even achieved enlightenment in the killing moves that belonged to this Martial Saint Ultimate Study. Primordial equal to heaven staff. Just 2 killing moves. Reaching the major accomplishment level allows mastery of the killing move Mix Yuan. Upon reaching the master level, one can achieve enlightenment in the killing move Qi Tian. Mix Yuan, Qi Tian. These are the 2 great killing moves of this Martial Saint Ultimate Study. However, achieving enlightenment in killing moves is not an easy task, which is not something one can achieve just by stepping into the realm of major accomplishment. It requires not only talent but also a moment of opportunity. With the martial understanding amplified by the Dragon Elephant Vajra Deo fruit, Li Che had the right talent and posture, and the opportunity. Today's battle with Shwetufu was that opportunity. The staff shadows piled upon each other, dense and numerous, as if they enveloped the entire courtyard. The void ceaselessly emitted sounds of bursting and breaking, with turbulent air currents whimpering. Gradually, the numerous staff shadows dissipated without a trace. Li Che was drenched in sweat, and as a furnace grandmaster, his qi and blood boiled, with large beads of sweat continuously breaking and dripping. The killing move Mix Yuan 1 stick. I've managed to grasp it with difficulty, indeed it's challenging. Li Che couldn't help but sigh. He felt as if his brain was almost overloaded with deductions. And finally, he managed to grasp this Mix Yuan 1 stick in a barely adequate manner. He didn't continue practicing martial arts. He tore off his black shirt, revealing his strong and muscular body. With the motion of his qi and blood, the sweat evaporated. He sat down feeling refreshed on the ground. Light flickered in front of his eyes. Name, Li Che. Bonds, Li Nuangzai, daughter. Dao fruits, Immortal Artisan, LV 4,1%, Dragon Elephant Vajra, LV 4,2%, Pure Heart, LV 3,30%, Chess Saint, LV 3,60%, Fairy in the Painting, LV 1,95%. Divine Skills, Star Plucking, Rosy Cloud Lift. Prototype of Divine Powers, 1000 Analyzing Hands, Ascending the Tower, Soul Capturing, Great Avalanche. Tip: for each year that the bonded individual grows up safely, the Dao tree can produce one Dao fruit. The panel emerged. Li Che's eyes opened and closed, flashing with divine light. The battle with the Great Grand Master just now only increased the maturity of the Dragon Elephant Vajra LV4 by 2%, indeed. The maturity of the Dao fruits is becoming increasingly difficult to accumulate. If I were to slaughter a Great Grand Master, I fear the maturity would increase quite a bit. Not to mention, the Chess Saint's Dao fruit would definitely surge. No, a Great Grand Master won't do. Take Shwetufa for example. Although he is a Great Grand Master, his divine cultivation is even weaker than that of the Southern Sect Master at the Elemental Appearance realm. Absorbing divine chess pieces is the way to quickly increase maturity. So, I have to kill the divine element true person. Li Che stroked his chin, analyzing. He was very much looking forward to the divine skills obtained after the Chess Saint's Dao fruit grows to LV4. It could be said that the Chess Saint's Dao fruit is so far Li Che's strongest life-saving measure. So, Li Che was truly filled with anticipation. The advancement of the Immaculate Heart Dao fruit relies on the absorption of divine crystals. A few more 7 Yuan divinity crystals should push it up. Without realizing it, the Fairy in the Painting's Dao fruit is also nearing LV2. Indeed, the more the Fairy in the Painting's avatars work, the quicker the Dao fruits mature. Li Che scanned the panel and saw that all the Dao fruits had made substantial and clear progress, which greatly lifted his mood. If the Fairy in the Painting's Dao fruit reaches LV2, it should also grant a considerable ability increase. But after reaching LV3 and producing a prototype of divine powers, that's when the Fairy in the Painting truly metamorphoses. Slow and steady, everything will fall into place. Li Che stretched languidly. With a flick of his fingers, Qi and blood merged with divinity to create divine ink, which he splashed onto the Immaculate Heart drawing paper. 7 individual divine likenesses of Li Che's Fairy in the Painting avatars stepped out, queued up, and took the divine crystals from Li Che's hands with practiced familiarity, and went on to cultivate divinity. He watched his cultivating avatars with satisfaction. Li Che's lips curled into a bright smile. Once all the divine foundations reach divine base perfection, he can begin to condense the divine likenesses. 7 venerated divine forms, it's not going to be easy. Li Che muttered. 7 divine foundations require 7 divine likenesses. Now, Li Che had long since unified the divine foundation technique of his 7 divine foundations to the 8 extremes divine foundation technique, all to be in the 8 extremes. This is already the limit that his avatars could reach. And for the method of the godly statue, Li Che planned to concoct the 7 Yuan level, allowing his 7 divine foundations to break through realm using the 7 elements divine visage. Acquiring the methods for 7 kinds of 7 Yuan level godly statues is by no means easy. If he were to simply spend divine crystals to buy them, the required number of divine crystals would be no small amount. Divine crystals. Li Che couldn't afford to let his avatars cultivate enough of them. To spend them on buying Dharma would indeed be painfully heart-wrenching. Li Che was also slowly accumulating them. From his previous conquering of the Heart Monkey Temple, he gained some, but it's still far from collecting 7 methods. As for resources, one still has to earn them diligently and with a clear conscience to feel at peace. With this thought, Li Che couldn't help but rub his hands together. His eyes suddenly brightened. It was time for the draw. 2 Kyunkan jades hidden by the gold split gate septenary corpse god envoys. And the Kyunkan jade of Great Grand Master Shwetufu, which he had just acquired. Chapter 415. Golden Light Prefecture City. This night was destined to be restless. The snow in the sky melted into a torrential downpour, continuously falling, with large beads of rain mixed with hail hitting the ground, creating a clattering sound. The earth, splashed with water, reflected a hazy scene. Temple Control Bureau. The governor's face at the temple administration office became extremely solemn. The sword at his waist trembled incessantly, his eyes shone brilliantly, his heart surged with emotion, and his qi and blood rolled inside him. He took a deep breath, suppressing the trembling and longing within him. A great Grandmaster battle. Great Grandmaster. Xiejing's eyes flickered, he raised his hand, bathing in the downpour turned from snow by the impact of a great Grandmaster's vitality. His entire being was shrouded in a misty veil of water. He looked at his hand. Truly, its aspiration. As the governor of the Temple Administration Office seated in Golden Light Prefecture, Xiejing's strength was certainly not weak, and he had a keen desire for the realm of Great Grandmaster, but it wasn't easy to break through to that level. He was always just one step short. However, he was actually very close to the realm of Great Grandmaster. In his usual sparring, he only used his Yuanxiang cultivation, but in reality his Qi and blood martial cultivation was the strongest. Half-step Great Grandmaster. That was his true foundation. In Golden Light Prefecture, only two people knew his real strength. Nan Li Huo and the chief supervisor, not even the city lord Su Huili knew about his Qi and blood martial cultivation. Closing his eyes, Xiejing reminisced about tonight's Great Grandmaster battle, feeling his blood boiling with fervor. He seemed to have a realization. The divine gang technique of Shuedufu, its use and stimulation, greatly moved him. After reminiscing for a moment, Xiejing opened his eyes and returned inside the Temple Administration Office building. Golden Light Prefecture City has completely descended into chaos, and with the Temple God Resonance Conference approaching, Great Grandmasters, Divine Element true people are rushing over. It's much more lively than in previous sessions. After all, this session is too important as it is the most active one for the third Prince Temple God, and also the easiest to gain inheritance. Xiejing exhaled. He sat at his desk, stacks of documents laid before him, but he reached past many of them and picked up a bronze mirror instead. He flipped open the mirror, channeled his Qi and blood, and unlocked the pattern seal. Immediately, messages emerged on it. Lingnan Taoist City Temple Administration, a great Grandmaster Supervisor Zhu Chaoyang along with a divine child and an elder responsible for transporting the 4 royal divine weapons from Qianyuan Divine Sect, have arrived together. He closed the message. Xiejing's expression changed. Another great Grandmaster and Divine Element true person have arrived. The Divine Sect has brought 2 Divine Element true people? No, actually Wang Kuya was just concealed, only to be revealed earlier, followed by the King Pingluan's side, also with a great Grandmaster, 1 Divine Element true person. Temple Control Bureau, Kintian Observatory, both have dispatched true person level experts. He shook his head, leaning back in his chair. It's chaotic, completely chaotic. And that's not to mention the underworld and corpse god cult. The commotion caused by this temple god resonance is just too big. Xiejing closed his eyes. It's not just that. There's also that Yuan Jinggong from the corpse god cult lurking in the shadows, a 7 Yuan upper tier corpse god envoy, who is a cursed silver corpse, suspected to have stepped into the realm of divine element true person. Troublesome. Xiejing's fingers curled, tapping on the desk. Although the ox demon and horse face from the underworld, as well as the divine monkey that appeared suddenly tonight, have eliminated many experts from the corpse god cult. But Yuan Jinggong has yet to reveal himself. Yuan Jinggong, where exactly is he hiding? Or rather, who is he exactly? Xiejing clenched his hand into a fist. The ox demon, or rather, the hosts of the underworld, uncovered so many high-ranking members of the corpse god cult, even pulling out Su Juking who was hidden among the divine sect. This Yuan Jinggong. Can he be found? This guy is the most terrifying surprise. Outside the house, rain continued to lash down fiercely. The world was blurry, the night deep and profound. Li Che returned to the room, the lamp flame flickering amongst the rain smashed against the ground. The room was extremely quiet. 7 fairy in the painting incarnations were diligently helping their original form with divinity, working as hard as if they were helping with summer vacation homework. Li Che rubbed his hands together, his eyes sparkling with great anticipation. 3 Kyunkan jades floated in front of him. 2 Kyunkan jades radiated corpse chi and death chi, 1 Kyunkan jade circulated with blood chi. Li Che broke open the Kyunkan jades of 2 gold split gate hidden corpse god cult experts. The corpse chi and death chi were instantly torn apart by Li Che's brutal and fierce force. Having done this kind of thing not for the first time, Li Che listened to the Kyunkan jade's restraints scream and shatter, his heart undisturbed. The first thing after opening the jade, search for the divine crystal. With a thought, a myriad of items poured out from the Kyunkan jades. 7 Yuan divinity crystals, 5 pieces. 15 8 extremes divine crystals. 9 luminaries and 10 cities divine crystals, are no longer important. But adding up, they are nearly 500 pieces. Hiss! Worthy of the gold split gate, the old ancestor of the gold split gate must have held the entire sex resources in his hands. Aren't all these benefits mine now? A grand harvest. Just the divine crystals alone made Li Chei's effort worthwhile. Li Chei's smile blossomed, although not feeling as if he had struck it rich, as he had experienced it many times before, but the feeling of harvest was still very pleasing. It was like planting peanuts in the ground, and pulling them out to find them flourishing with fruits. The feeling was beautiful. These experts from the corpse god cult. What's the difference from peanuts growing in the ground waiting for him to pluck? Or perhaps to use a more vivid description, the evildoers of the corpse god cult are merely like power banks. Chapter 416. Li Chei's lips curled up slightly. Without any divine crystals, slaying a high-ranked member of the corpse god cult would definitely yield a good amount of divine crystals. The corpse god cult wanted to establish operations in the Golden Light Prefecture and erode the cultivators within, which also required funds for their activities. Therefore, these high-ranked members of the corpse god cult were quite wealthy. To break through to LV4 with my Immaculate Heart Deo fruit, I need plenty of 7 elements divinity crystals. This is essential. Li Chei's gaze was burning. Moreover, the cultivation of the pure heart couldn't be carried out by his clone, it had to be done by himself. Therefore, the higher the quality of the divine crystals, the faster his cultivation. Li Chei paused, planning to open Shwetufo's Kyunkan Jade afterward, and then tally up his current fortune in divine crystals. He continued to check his gains. Divine weapon, let me see, there's actually a 7-elemental divine weapon. Li Chei's eyes lit up. Although there was only one 7-elemental divine weapon, it was a tremendous gain for Li Chei. He had previously acquired a 7-elemental divine weapon, the Lu Xian'ai's Sun Sword, but after all, that thing was a sword, which Li Chei was not accustomed to using. Thus, he always paid attention to each 7-elemental divine weapon he came across. Li Chei clenched his hand, and immediately, dazzling golden light surged, powerful and heavy, with penetrating power that was extremely terrifying, so much so that the air emitted a buzzing breaking sound. It was a long spear. 18 feet in length, made entirely of refined gold, engraved with unique patterns, and the spearhead was carved with a tiger and leopard design, as though a ferocious tiger was opening its mouth to spit out the spearhead. The spearhead was not long, even somewhat short, but incredibly sharp, making the entire spear seem like a golden cudgel. Li Chei's eyes sparkled, immediately captivated and unable to look away. The star-plucking pupil scanned it once. The information about the divine weapon flooded into his mind. Divine weapon, 7 elements superior grade tiger leopard thunder sound splitting golden spear. Craftsmanship, forged entirely from gold essence mixed with mysterious silver material, smelted with the blood of demonic tigers and leopards and the thunder of heaven and earth. When the spear moves, it emits the sound of a tiger and leopard's thunder, containing the power of the gold attribute, capable of splitting gold and crushing stone. Wielder, masters of the gold attribute in the 5 elements and above, elemental appearance and above. Tiger leopard thunder sound splitting gold spear. Information flowed, and Li Chei watched with great joy, weighing it in his hands. As if thinking of something, he raised his hand, touching his forehead. Tearing open the flesh, the star-plucking pupil opened its eyes. In an instant, his chi and blood burst forth. Chi and blood rosy clouds steamed. Li Chei's eyes shone with golden light as he enveloped the tiger leopard thunder sound splitting golden spear, and in an instant, the intertwined chi and blood rosy clouds merged into the divine weapon. The star-plucking pupil watched the tiger leopard thunder sound spear, and under its gaze, the chi and blood rosy clouds seemed to come alive, seeking out the flaws within the divine weapon. They furiously converged upon these flaws, burrowing in. Gradually, they completely infused into the divine weapon. Humming. The spear roared, as if the tiger leopard thunder sound exploded. Rolling thunder, tigers roar, and leopards scream. When everything returned to silence, Li Chei saw new patterns on the divine weapon, akin to red as blood, chi and blood rosy clouds. Gold and red intertwined, another kind of dazzling sight. Divine weapon, 6 ministries low-grade tiger leopard thunder sound splitting golden spear. The star-plucking pupil once again fed back the information on the divine weapon. And the information had changed. A look of incredulity flashed through Li Chei's eyes. This works? No. Did Qi and blood rosy clouds have such an effect? Previously, in the battle with Xuetufu, the Qi and blood rosy clouds enhancement had temporarily elevated the quality of the shocking spear, making it tougher and harder. Thereupon, Li Che tried out of curiosity. Under the combined effect of the two divine skills, could it be that this divine weapon ascended in rank? The significance was not the same. Li Che took out another 7 elements divine weapon, which was the red flame flowing fire divine bow acquired from the divine archer Wen Longshan. 7 elements superior grade, Li Che imitated the previous method. The star-plucking pupil and Qi and blood rosy clouds working together. Qi and blood rosy clouds were consumed intensely, as if draining Li Che's own Qi and blood. After completing the enhancement, Li Che glanced at it and felt a bit regretful. This divine bow had not advanced to the 6 ministries level. It seemed that not all divine weapons had the potential for promotion. Qi and blood rosy clouds, this newly acquired divine skill, was mostly understood by Li Che as an auxiliary tool for improvement. It could even be seen as a peculiar divine weapon. It could carry Li Che through the sky, form an extremely protective armor around him, and even enhance the quality of divine weapons. Most importantly, as Li Che's Qi and blood cultivation improved, the power of Qi and blood rosy clouds would also increase. Yes, Qi and blood rosy clouds, it can even be integrated into the Guanyin lotus bullets. Then, I could control the shells for long-range operations, guide them at the terminal stage, and improve the accuracy of the bombardment, making the enemy unable to hide or escape. Li Che's eyes were incredibly bright. Divine skills, needed to be explored. It would be a waste to simply and foolishly use only their basic functions. Besides, Qi and blood rosy clouds was only the first heaven of the divine skill rosy cloud lift. Satisfied, Li Che put away the tiger leopard thunder sound spear and then continued to tally up his gains. Elixirs, 2 7th stage top grade tiger blood precious martial pills, and 1 7 elements mid grade death Qi condensing martial pill. Plus a total of 18 other high quality elixirs, not many, but of high quality. As for techniques, there's the supreme true meaning secret technique golden tiger roaring spear from the gold split gate old ancestor, which is a perfect match with the tiger leopard thunder sound splitting golden spear. Yet another Grandmaster's ultimate study added to his collection, Li Che was very pleased. Also, there's the 7 elements divine aspect technique from gold split gate, mystical shock golden mountain lord scolding divine aspect technique decent. The main gains, in fact, came mostly from the gold split gate old ancestor's side, with the other septenary corpse god envoy only having more divine crystals. Chapter 417. 5-7 Yuan divine crystals, 4 of which came from the corpse god envoy. The rest, such as divine weapons, elixirs, and dharma, all came from the gold split gate ancestor, after all the deep heritage of a great mansion city force. He put away these gains. Li Che took out the Qunkan jade of the great Grandmaster Xuetufu. Although Xuetufu had not died, and the Qunkan jade could not be opened if forcefully done, it would only cause the Qunkan jade to self-destruct and shatter. Therefore, the opening of this premium Qunkan jade required some effort from Li Che. Li Che directly employed the Immaculate Heart divinity to refine away this Qunkan jade. Without a sound, the Qunkan jade had its owner changed. The Qi, blood, and martial dao will attached to it by Xuetufu directly dissolved into nothingness. Li Che also sensed the treasures within. No divine weapon, that's rather regrettable, that firewood knife transforming into a crescent blade, not getting my hands on it, ah, what a loss. The great Grandmaster's ultimate study Desert Lone Smoke Blade, and there's another. A Martial Saint ultimate study too. Lone Mountain Walk Blade. Suddenly, the actions of Li Che tallying his gains stiffened. His eyes flickered with bright radiance, his breathing hastened a bit. What's this? A6 Ministry's Divine Crystal. The feeling of being smacked by sudden wealth. Li Che felt it once again. There was never any numbness to riches. Numbness was merely about how heavily the riches weighed. City Lord's Mansion. The atmosphere was oppressively solemn. Inside the great hall, candles were lit, illuminating everything. Xuetufu sat on a chair, his arms severed, now an armless elder with an extremely unsightly complexion. What made his complexion even worse? His Qunkan jade had been torn open. The connection between him and his Qunkan jade was severed. Damn it! Xuetufu was furious in his heart, filled with pain. He wasn't worried about the things inside the Qunkan jade falling into that dead monkey's hands. After all, forcibly opening the Qunkan jade without his death would only trigger self-destruction, and both the Kyunkan Jade and its treasures would be destroyed. Grandfather Dufu, you shouldn't take it too hard, that underworld divine monkey simply isn't a match for you in terms of pure strength, he just took advantage of the temple god's power. Seeing the upset look on Xue Dufu's face, the young prince, with a naive expression, imitated the poise of his elders to comfort the great grandmaster Xue Dufu, winning hearts. Once we return to the royal mansion, I will ask father to grant you a flesh-regenerating minor elixir, Grandfather Dufu, to help you recover your arms. A great grandmaster still cannot regenerate flesh and blood. But it's possible at the Martial Saint realm. However, for Xue Dufu to reach the Martial Saint realm, it might be hopeless in this lifetime. So he can only rely on external means. The flesh-regenerating minor elixir is a superior grade divine elixir from the 6 ministries, which not only greatly increases qi and blood but also helps regenerate flesh. Xue Dufu shook his head. Young prince, I'm fine, it's just some suffocation in my heart being disgusted by that underworld monkey, he said. If there's a next time, I will surely kill him. Xue Dufu's killing intent surged. For a great grandmaster, using divine gang to form an arm was a temporary solution. That monkey from the underworld appeared suddenly, it must have arrived in Golden Light Prefecture City recently. Most likely it's here for the third prince's mysterious temple. Underworld divine monkey. The young prince suddenly burst into laughter. Even the underworld engages in assassination, somewhat similar to the hunting god pavilion. The assassins from the hunting god pavilion must have followed us into Golden Light Prefecture City. Grandfather Dufu, go contact that assassin from the hunting god pavilion and say, we also want to issue an assassination mission, will they take it? Xue Dufu was startled. Assassinate whom? The young prince's mouth twisted into a smile. To assassinate the divine monkey. Isn't it rumored that the hunting god pavilion plans to extend their services to prefecture-level cities? Perfect, the underworld is competing with the hunting god pavilion for business. The hunting god pavilion won't let this opportunity slide easily. Just right. Let them start dog-eat-dog ahead of time. Hearing this, Xue Dufu shook visibly, taking a deep breath. Su Huili, who was sitting below, paused his tea drinking. His face, too, revealed surprise. The young prince. He's starting to resemble the old prince. Time, like sand, trickled unnoticed through one's fingertips. Among the incessant winter rain and the falling snowflakes, 5 days quietly passed by. 5 days had gone since the last battle among the great grandmasters. The entire Golden Light Prefecture City, initially restless, gradually returned to calm. However, the undercurrents were raging, sensed by every power. Originally, some small, second and third-tier powers within the city had restrained their actions, not daring to be too ostentatious. One day, the winter rain was as dense as cow hair. In Falling Flower Alley, in the courtyard of an independent workshop, heat waves rolled, and the aura surged. There were tiger roars, leopard cries, and thunder rolling. The powerful currents blasted out, preventing the sky's winter rain from falling. The temperature in the entire courtyard soared too many degrees, intensely hot, as if a furnace was radiating high temperatures with all its might. Li Che stood in the center of the courtyard, grasping a golden-red spear that seemed like an 18-foot-long staff, heavy and powerful. The tiger-leopard thunder sound gold-splitting spear, perhaps due to being forged with the qi and blood rosy clouds, had become extremely handy for Li Che, almost as if connected to his mind and soul. Li Che stood still, eyes closed, and the next moment, his eyes suddenly opened, exuding an aura of vastness. With one step, it seemed as though countless mountains were traversed, striding alone through the desolate world, walking solitary among 1,000 mountains. The desolate and solitary intent surged forth. Li Che's tiger-leopard thunder sound spear in hand vibrated, and suddenly the tiger-leopard thunder sound burst forth, transforming into an extremely sharp blade that slashed down fiercely. Chapter 418. Crossing thousands of mountains and rivers to land. The air burst open with an invisible tremor of ripples. Martial Saint's ultimate study, Lone Mountain Walk Blade. Minor accomplishment. Li Che's muscles and bones vibrated, and after reaching LV4 with the Dragon Elephant Vajradeo fruit, the increase in his strength was tremendous. After undergoing a complete transformation, he broke through from the Grandmaster initial realm to the Master level rank and even achieved an explosive burst of bodily strength at the innate divine strength rank. Without relying on the temple god chess pieces, Li Che could easily obliterate a complete Grandmaster. Reaching LV4 with the Dragon Elephant Vajradeo fruit, the greater improvement, is in martial arts comprehension. My current insight is somewhat against the heavens. Even martial saint's ultimate study, merely 5 days' time to grasp to the level of minor accomplishment. Li Chai's eyes sparkled as he started to smile. From Grandmaster to Great Grandmaster, the most important thing is the tempering of the 5 viscera and 6 bowels, in essence, tempering the human body's 5 viscera with true intent, finally condensing a great elixir within the body, merging with martial Dao will to forge divine gang, and thus become a master of divine gang. What will happen if I use martial saint's true intent to temper my 5 viscera and 6 bowels? Others use martial saint's true intent to temper their 5 viscera, which amounts to one martial saint ultimate study, yet I can master multiple disciplines, each martial saint's ultimate study refining one organ. However, it's difficult to get a hold of martial saint's ultimate study. Li Chai slightly shook his head. He had this idea, but it seemed the conditions did not allow it. Myriad transformations dragon elephant, chaos heaven matching staff along with the lone mountain walk blade, those are 3 martial saint's ultimate studies. That young prince still has one martial saint's ultimate study on him, 10,000 dragons subduing gods. Counting it up, there's still one more missing. Li Chai really had no clue where to get that one more study. The Great Grandmaster ultimate study Desert Lone Smoke Blade, barely, can take its place. Li Chai shook his head, his heart not satisfied. He put away the tiger leopard thunder sound splitting golden spear. Li Chai simply sat down cross-legged in the courtyard. These 5 days passed very peacefully. After XIXI beat up that young prince, he seemed to have calmed down, or perhaps in order to avoid complying with the wager of serving as a slave, he started playing dead. Waiting for the temple god resonance grand assembly to begin. XIXI was extremely dissatisfied, murmuring every day, complaining about young Prince Ji-hai, that weak and playful cheat. The martial arts cultivation ended. Li Chai then took out that exceedingly precious 6 ministries divine crystal he got from Shwedufo's Kyunkan jade. It was about the size of a duck egg, its surface flashing with many milky streams of light. With a thought. Dao fruit, immaculate heart, LV 3,70%. During these 5 days, Li Chai would pick up this 6 ministries divine crystal and absorb a wave each day. About a third of the divinity inside this 6 ministries divine crystal had been consumed. It must have been Shwedufo's foundation specially for assaulting the divine origin realm. Now Li Chai was the one benefiting from it. However, the absorption of this 6 ministries divine crystal wasn't as smooth as when he'd first absorbed the 7 Yuan divinity crystal. One could say the Immaculate Heart Dao fruit was absorbing it cautiously, fearing that the pure and powerful divinity surging in might harm Li Chai. So, he absorbed a little each day, slowly refining it. Yet the speed of improvement wasn't slow. In 5 days, it had matured by 40%. At this rate, in some more days, it would reach LV4 standard. Li Chai was quite looking forward to it. One had to admit, resources are crucial to cultivation. As time passed, Li Chai and his fairy in the painting incarnations worked diligently on divinity. The fruit of the heavenly Dao from within the painting also reached LV2 status, and indeed, the incarnations absorbed divinity much faster. After reaching LV2, the incarnations drawn by the fruit of the heavenly Dao from within the painting consumed less divinity blood, had longer existence times, and were stronger. Moreover, they had gained a new function, which was that Li Chai's consciousness could fully descend upon an incarnation, controlling this fairy in the painting incarnation as if it were his own body. Li Chai even began to look forward to what the prototype of divine powers that would awaken when the fruit of the heavenly Dao from within the painting reached LV3. When the maturity reached 78%, the 6 ministries divine crystal dimmed, unable to extract divinity from it any longer. Li Chai then gave up on today's divine cultivation. He stretched his body and stood up, his eyes flickering. 5 days have passed. I have also recovered to top condition, Li Chai said. It's time to take a walk in the divine palace of the god Li Kai within the Heavenly King Tower. Let's see if the Heavenly King has calmed down yet. And whether he'll let me touch him. Li Chai stroked his chin, a smile unconsciously curling up at the corner of his mouth. The next moment, Li Chai's fingers spread open, his palm empty. But the instant he clenched his fist, it was as if he had grasped the thunder chess piece that remained within the divine palace inside the god Li Kai of the Heavenly King Tower. And with that, Li Chai's figure had also shifted to inside this divine palace. Inside the divine palace, Li Chai stealthily stood still, pricked up his ears, and listened for any noise. If the Heavenly King was still in a bad mood, Then Li Che would just come back another day. Hey? It's quiet. It seems the Heavenly King's temper has subsided, he murmured. Li Che began to laugh, in an excellent mood. Standing in the Divine Palace, his black robe rustling without wind, his gaze swept across and settled on the massive golden Heavenly King statue. Among the 7 divine methods that Li Che cultivated, one was acquired from the Golden Temple, known as the Fearless Golden Heavenly King Divine Aspect Method of the 6 Bureaus. Now, Li Che's divine foundation has already reached perfection and had attained the level of divine observation. As Li Che now looked at the divine likeness of the Heavenly King, his mind ran the method of the godly statue, and he felt as if the shape of the Heavenly King was slowly being sketched out in his grinding mill like divine foundation. Like the craft of wood carving, first outlining the shape, then cutting into the wood. After observing for a while, Li Che began to feel his divine sense swell, a sensation of dizziness washing over him, indicating a vast consumption of divine sense. The stronger the statue of the deity one observes, the greater the divine sense consumed. In terms of divinity, my talent really is average. Whether it's divine secret techniques or divine methods, I'm no genius. Li Che shook his head and sighed softly. It was not like the martial path, where his perception was frighteningly strong. A martial saint's ultimate study could reach minor accomplishment in just 5 days. In a year, he would likely achieve major accomplishment. If this speed were known, it would scare the great Grandmaster Shwetufu to death. With the act of observing divine likeness concluded, Li Che exhaled and stood up, leaping and moving freely within the divine palace, limbering up his body. During the intervals, he casually inched closer to the exceedingly majestic golden Heavenly King statue bearing the Heavenly King Tower, pretending to be nonchalant. It was as if he was testing the limits of the golden Heavenly King. Once those limits were breached, he could act as he pleased. As he approached within a 1-foot range, Li Che's eyes lit up with joy. Slowly, he raised his guilty hand and pressed it against the massive, wall-like shoe surface of the Heavenly King statue. However, the instant Li Che's palm touched the Heavenly King statue, his expression drastically changed. His divine sense swept out. He immediately sensed that the mythological weapon face of the firmament situated within the heaven and earth chessboard of the Dao fruit of the chess saint suddenly began to tremble violently. Countless strands of golden fur began to spread from that mask, wriggling all around, intertwining on the chessboard. And inside the divine palace, Li Che quickly came to his senses, feeling something amiss, and abruptly looked up. Only to see the massive statue of the deity, holding the treasure pagoda, and without him realizing, leaning forward, its head thrust out, eyes bulging as it glowered and looked down at him. And on the face of Li Che, golden hairs had grown out in abundance. The face of equaling heaven. Somehow, it had already covered his face. Chapter 419. The Heavenly King and Equaling Heaven. Face to face. Li Che had not expected that touching the golden Heavenly King statue would trigger such an accident. The mythological weapon face of the firmament, situated within the heaven and earth chessboard, seemed to activate automatically, like it was protecting its master, covering his face directly. Numerous monkey hairs sprouted, and a majestic and grand wool surged forth as if equaling heaven had descended, violently emerging in an instant. Within the heaven and earth chessboard, Li Che watched as the face of the firmament vibrated with intense ferocity. Then, it swelled like a balloon, not just a mask anymore, it came to life, turning into a real simian figure. A powerful aura billowed throughout the heaven and earth chessboard. It caused all the pure heart chess pieces to clang and clatter. The 7 elemental corpse curse mother-child seal, suppressed within, trembled with fear, its refining speed suddenly accelerated, and Li Che completely finished refining it. But at this moment, Li Che simply couldn't care less about this minor detail. His eyes were fixed on the scene reflected before him. Inside the Golden Temple. In an instant, countless clouds surged, winds and clouds stirred tumultuously, creating a boundless expanse that made the temple seem infinitely vast, with roiling mists and clouds like a vast ocean. The Golden Heavenly King stood tall amidst the ocean of clouds like a towering tree reaching into the sky, dazzlingly golden, casting a brilliant glow like a mighty sun. The tens of thousands of golden rays it shed were like countless sharp swords, spanning the ocean of clouds, severing the firmament. The Heavenly King, with a bent body and angry eyes, held up the treasure pagoda, as if glaring at a bold individual who had the audacity to offend him. And Li Che, now covered with the face of the firmament, grew countless golden monkey hairs on his face while his dark robes fluttered wildly. His eyes seemed to burst with golden light, as he fearlessly looked up, meeting the gaze of the Heavenly King. "You impudent monkey!" The golden Heavenly King wielded the golden treasure pagoda and shouted fiercely. At once, the temple shook, rumbling thunderously, shaking and swaying continuously, with numerous clouds exploding like towering waves stirred by the ocean. Li Che, within the chess saint's Dao fruit. His gaze was piercing. He saw the Heavenly King's roar, while wearing the face of the firmament. It was as if he had transformed into equaling heaven himself. His legs bent sharply, propelling him upward, his hand reached out as if clutching a golden staff, drawn out from the stirring clouds. "Ah, you impudent monkey!" The Heavenly King looked at the figure who had leapt before him, swinging the massive staff, and heaved a long sigh. The next moment, his 7 treasures reliquary golden pagoda vibrated, whizzing as it suddenly flew out. Streams of light cascaded down from the pagoda, harshly enveloping the figure swinging the golden staff. "Even in death you can't be restrained, just a mere mask, and yet you dare to display such a heaven-shaking presence. An impudent monkey is still an impudent monkey. Clinging to the staff of equaling heaven, fighting to the end, draining your last drop of blood." The Heavenly King sighed softly. "The gods. Can they return?" Booming. The sea of clouds churned and exploded with a bang. Li Che felt the world spin around him, and the next moment he opened his eyes, he found that everything seemed like an illusion. His palm was on the golden Heavenly King statue's shoe, which looked like a wall. The Heavenly King statue had neither bent down nor summoned the golden celestial tower to precipitate thousands upon thousands of golden streamers. It was as if everything was just a figment of his imagination. But Li Che was certain what he had seen was not fake. It was as though he had truly seen 2 temple gods, looking at each other across the void, clashing from afar. It was as though the face of the firmament had collided with the golden celestial tower. Li Che released his hand, stepped back twice, his expression extremely complicated. These temple gods. Are they really dead? If these temple gods have truly died, then why did they die? And why did the mysterious temple rise from the ground like bamboo after rain in this world, bringing both strangeness and cultivation? Li Che did not understand, for he was too far from touching the true nature of this world. In front of the real temple gods, he was as insignificant as an ant. Even the furnace Grandmaster would only appear as a common ant to the temple gods. Grandmasters and great-grandmasters were nothing but mortals to them. Never mind, these things are not for me to manage. I just need to grow stronger, enhance my foundation, ensure the safety of my wife and daughter, watch my daughter grow up, and pursue immortality. Li Che murmured softly to himself. He took another step forward, his fingers once again fell on the golden Heavenly King statue. A dark golden Heavenly King chess piece was immediately condensed and extracted by him, and thunderously landed within the heaven and earth chessboard of the chess saint Dao fruit. The intersecting lines on the chessboard immediately curved under the pressure, as if space itself was distorted, with the strands of time flowing around the dark golden chess piece. Li Che looked up, cautiously sensing the situation in all directions. Based on his experience, at the moment he finished extracting the temple god chess piece, the Heavenly King was probably already furious, about to kick down fiercely. But this time, there was no reaction. Had the Heavenly King's temper improved, allowing him to do as he pleased? Li Che's eyes brightened. The meeting between equaling heaven and the Heavenly King seemed to have improved the Heavenly King's impression of him somewhat. Li Che felt elated, pressed his palm on the Heavenly King statue again, and extracted another temple god chess piece. When the second dark golden Heavenly King chess piece was drawn out by him, the Heavenly King moved at once. The thunderous sound vibrated throughout the entire divine palace. Li Che's eyes hardened, without hesitation, grasped the thunder chess piece. Time to beat a hasty retreat. All right, as expected, the so-called good impression was all an illusion. However, retrieving 2 dark golden Heavenly King chess pieces this time was enough. Inside the Golden Temple, silence reigned once again. Chapter 420. Devoid of life, still and silent as if it were a sealed ancient tomb. After a long time had passed, faint laughter lingered. This way of stealing energy is actually quite convincing. In Falling Flower Alley, within the independent workshop, the winter rain drizzled on. Li Che returned, the bone-chillingly cold rain lashed against his neck, seeping down into his clothes. However, it was instantly evaporated by Li Che's exceedingly powerful qi and blood. Sitting cross-legged on the now dry ground of the courtyard, Li Che slowly opened his eyes, his pupils seemingly bursting with an endless spray of golden light. He exhaled deeply, his mind still shaking from the images he recalled within the golden temple. He shook his head, opting not to dwell on them any longer. The Heavenly King is indeed a Heavenly King, not the slightest bit pathetic. Li Che stood up, stretched lazily, and his tightly wound muscles made a series of crackling sounds, booming like thunder. My physical body has become stronger. The equal to heaven's face has been stimulated, a mythical weapon refining my body, just like when Xixi's fire-tip spear was stimulated by the dragon god bloodline of Ji Haihui, aiding in bodily refinement. Once the body is adapted after being refined by the mythical weapon, perhaps, it could even wield the divine weapon. Shaking his clothes, Li Che was refreshed. This bodily refinement session was an unexpected gain which made his furnace grandmaster physical strength even more formidable. After adapting to the somewhat enhanced body from the refinement in the courtyard, Li Che put on his conical hat, donned his dark robes, and headed to work at the Kintian Observatory treasure building atop the cliff. Inside the small courtyard, the fairy in the painting clones diligently cultivated, nurturing their divine foundations to perfection, starting to practice observing divine likeness. As a wood carver, Li Che could naturally take care of crafting statues of deities himself. However, for observing divine likeness, Li Che had prepared the seven-element divine sculpture. Currently, Li Che found it quite strenuous to carve the seven-element divine sculpture. Every time he finished one, his divine sense would be weakened, but it wasn't a big problem, it would recover, and then he'd start carving anew. He also infused them with the divine impressions from his past life memories. The statues he carved were vivid and full of divinity. The efficiency of observing divine likeness was extremely high. Letting the clones practice observing divine likeness, he himself went to complete his daily routine. Going to work and punching the clock at the Kintian Observatory. Arriving at the treasure building of the Kintian Observatory, the warmth from burning charcoal inside was like spring, extremely comfortable and slightly relaxing. Shang Guanqinghong had taken off her shoes and was squatting on the chair, absorbed in a romance novel while snacking on sunflower seeds, clearly engrossed. Li Che greeted Shang Guanqinghong, and then headed upstairs to the Kintian Observatory treasure building. Now a second-class guest official, his status was different from the past, granted a large private office area where he could practice cultivation, carve, and go into seclusion, among other things. As soon as he reached the second floor, he saw the vice-director of Daokeng Imperial Observatory, Liu Yao, descending from upstairs with Tang Ren by his side. Upon seeing Li Che, Tang Ren's eyes suddenly lit up. Che, we're going to visit Elder Tang Sanjia, do you want to come with us? Li Che heard this but shook his head. His Guanyin Lotus main battle tank was not yet completed, so he wouldn't visit Tang Sanjia. Tang Sanjia had told him to come and talk to him once he had completed such a mechanical beast as the Guanyin Lotus main battle tank. For now, with the machine not finished, there was no rush. During this time, Li Che was also practicing the mechanism seal, 9 seals of mechanism. This 9 seals of mechanism was neither a master's ultimate study nor a great grandmaster or martial saint ultimate study. But its power was extremely formidable. To date, with the help of level 4 immortal artisan Dao fruit, Li Che had just managed to master 2 seals. Engraving these 2 seals into a mechanical beast would make it more agile. Although Tang Sanjia had asked for Li Che's help with something, it wasn't urgent, and since Li Che had no need for spiritual wood at the moment, he didn't make the trip to Divine Carving Ridge. All right then, said Tang Ren with some disappointment. He simply wanted to foster a good relationship with Xixi's father to make a solid impression. He had no intention of revolving around Xixi like Gong Yuan Liang, Hai Chao Sheng, and Gong Yangshiu did. He was determined to take a different approach. First to win over Xixi's father. Li Che looked at Tang Ren indifferently, this youngster had impure motives. Liu Yao smiled at Li Che, he was very pleased with him. Exceptionally talented in wood carving, and he wasn't arrogant or impatient, showing up for work diligently at the Kintian Observatory to carve and hone his skills each day. The only pity was that his cultivation was on the weaker side. A Suanmei warrior, at the primary god base realm. Such cultivation standing in as the father of a divine child like Xixi, indeed seemed a bit of a contrast. By the way, Che, I've received information that from Dao City, a great grandmaster of the Temple Control Bureau, along with a treasured divine child of the Bureau and divine element true person from Qian Yuan divine sect escorting the 4 royal divine weapon, prison lotus wind fire golden light wheel. Once the Windfire Golden Light Wheel arrives at Golden Light Prefecture, it'll be time to open the third prince's mysterious temple and conduct the temple god resonance. Liu Ya reminded Li Che. Li Che's brow furrowed at the news. Had the time finally come? Your Xixi has remarkable talent. She has likely been affected by the temple god divinity and may have even undergone a bloodline mutation, gaining a uniquely powerful bloodline talent. So, this upcoming temple god resonance represents a great opportunity. Liu Yao admired Li Che and thus advised, during these days, you should have her mimic the image of the third prince temple god. Li Che smiled and nodded in response. There's one more thing. Recently within the Golden Light Prefecture, traces of the hunting god pavilion were discovered. Liu Yao spoke. Li Che's step halted at the words, his demeanor turning solemn. The hunting god pavilion, that infamous assassins organization in Divine Capital and Dao City.